Texas highways stretch across deserts, rivers, and endless plains. By night, they are ordinary, unassuming roads connecting towns and cities. Certain bridges transform into portals of fear. Phantom headlights pierce the darkness. Ghostly engines roar where no car exists. Shadows loom along guardrails, waiting, watching, and sometimes chasing those who dare cross. Imagine driving alone, headlights cutting to the night, wind in your hair, and suddenly another car appears ahead. It seems real, its lights bright, its shape solid, but as you approach, it vanishes. The road is empty. No sign of wheels, no evidence of tires, no explanation at all. These are not mere legends. Across Texas, bridges carried away the stories that have terrified travelers for generations. Some vanish into mist. Some appear endlessly long. Some trap drivers in loops, disorienting them for miles. The highways themselves seem alive, observing, and sometimes punishing those who ignore the warnings. Tonight, we explore 25 haunted highway bridges in Texas, where phantom cars appear, shadows linger, and the night drives itself. Texas is home to more than wide-open roads and towering bridges. Some crossings hold secrets that defy explanation. Phantom cars appear out of nowhere, sometimes merging seamlessly with reality. Other times, shadows creep along guardrails, and drivers hear voices carried on the wind, whispering warnings or cries for help. These haunted bridges often share histories of tragedy. Accidents, suicides, and disappearances leave lingering energy. Witnesses recount seeing headlights, vehicles, and figures that vanish instantly, yet remain vivid in memory. Travelers report the temperature dropping suddenly, strange static in radios, and a feeling that time itself bends as they cross certain bridges. Some bridges seem endless, stretching farther than possible, trapping drivers in loops of terror. Have you ever felt a presence on an empty road? That the car behind you or in front of you might not be real? Tonight, we invite you to travel these bridges with us and share your thoughts in the comments. Which Texas bridge would you dare to cross alone at midnight? The Devil-esque Backbone Bridge rises sharply from the Texas landscape, a narrow ribbon of asphalt suspended over deep ravines and twisting terrain. Fog often clings to the bridge like a living shroud, curling along guardrails and masking the edges where the drop begins. Even in daylight, the bridge commands respect, its elevation and steep curves making every crossing feel deliberate and precarious. As night falls, the atmosphere shifts, transforming the structure into something far more enigmatic. Drivers who traverse the Devil-esque Backbone report sensations that defy explanation. Phantom headlights appear in the distance, faint at first, traveling along the bridge as if guided by invisible hands. As they approach, the lights vanish, leaving only darkness and the sound of tires against asphalt. On foggy nights, figures are glimpsed at the edges of guardrails, motionless silhouettes that observe silently, neither moving nor speaking. Their presence is fleeting yet indelible, leaving a lingering awareness that something unseen watches every crossing. The bridge itself seems to bend and shift within the mist. Straightaways appear curved, and elevations feel sharper than they should. Drivers report a disorienting sensation, as if the road is alive and capable of guiding or misdirecting those who venture too far without caution. Even seasoned travelers find themselves slowing instinctively, eyes scanning the fog for anomalies, listening for sounds that seem to emerge from nowhere. The bridge's subtle manipulation of perception is one of its most unsettling qualities. Sounds carry unusually across the Devil's Backbone. The wind whistles through the guardrails, combining with distant echoes of tires and faint footsteps to create an environment that feels alive and observant. Occasionally, muffled voices drift through the fog, unintelligible yet persistent, leaving the impression that the bridge holds memories of past crossings and unseen travelers. Birds and wildlife are scarce. Along the span, their absence intensifying the hollow quiet and heightening attention to every footfall, every turn of the wheel. The Bridgia-S history contributes to its eerie character. Stories of travelers who never reach their destinations linger in local memory. Some speak of cars found abandoned without explanation. These tales reinforce the sense that the bridge is more than a physical structure. It exists as a conduit, a threshold between the known and unknown, where past events imprint upon the present. And those who cross are subtly tested by forces beyond comprehension. Fog and light interact in strange ways along the Devila-S backbone. Headlights refract in the mist, creating illusions of oncoming vehicles or shifting shadows along the guardrails. Moonlight reflects off wet asphalt and metal, producing glimmers that vanish when approached. The interplay between illumination and darkness heightens a sense of uncertainty and tension, leaving drivers unsure of what is real and what is a product perception. Every crossing becomes a careful negotiation between observation and instinct. Travelers report that the Bridgia-S presence is felt even before reaching it. The surrounding landscape shifts subtly, roads narrowing and dips deepening. Trees loom closer, and wind carries a chill that seems unnaturally focused. These elements work together to prepare visitors for the Bridgia-S unique character. Once upon the span, the fog, the curvature, and the subtle, almost imperceptible sounds converge into an immersive experience, commanding attention and respect. The narrowness of the bridge amplifies every sensation. Guardrails, though sturdy, feel insufficient in the face of the steep drop on either side. Each curve requires careful navigation, and any distraction increases the risk of misstep. In this environment, the perception of movement and sound is heightened. Shadowy figures, phantom lights, and shifting paths all contribute to the feeling that the bridge is aware of each traveler and their intentions. Time seems to behave unusually while crossing the Devila-S backbone. Minutes stretch and compress, leaving travelers unsure of duration or distance. Landmarks shift subtly in the fog, giving the impression that the bridge is longer or shorter than anticipated. Drivers describe moments of heightened awareness, sensing that the bridge itself reacts to hesitation or speed. Giving the impression that the bridge itself reacts to hesitation or speed, guiding or testing each crossing with an almost deliberate intelligence. Even those who traverse during daylight report residual effects. The memory of the fog, the phantom lights, and the silent figures linger, creating a sense that the bridge continues to observe long after leaving. This persistent awareness contributes to the Bridgia-S enduring reputation as one of the most enigmatic locations in Central Texas. Seasonal changes further alter the character of the Devil's backbone. Summer brings heavy heat that mixes with rising mist in the mornings and evenings, creating low-hanging fog that obscures vision. Autumn adds crisp air, fallen leaves, and early darkness, intensifying shadows and reflections along the asphalt. Winter brings frost, rain, and longer nights, amplifying the bridge's quiet intensity and the unpredictability of perception. Each season provides a distinct atmosphere, yet the forested surroundings, elevation, and fog ensure the bridge remains a place of subtle tension and intrigue year-round. The combination of isolation, elevation, and unusual phenomena makes the Devila-S backbone a place of heightened awareness. Phantom lights, shadowy figures, and shifting perceptions create an immersive experience that is both captivating and unnerving. Every crossing becomes a test of observation, intuition, and composure. Local warnings emphasize caution. Crossing alone increases the likelihood of encounters with unexplained phenomena. The bridge seems to reward careful observation while gently punishing distraction or overconfidence. Those who approach with respect and awareness leave with an impression that is unforgettable, while those who underestimate its influence may feel the weight of its presence in ways that linger beyond the crossing. Ultimately, the Devil's backbone is more than a bridge. It is a threshold where reality and perception intersect, where natural features blend with the unexplained, and where travelers encounter a subtle intelligence that watches, responds, and persists. The fog, the mist, the phantom lights, and the silent figures combine to create a cinematic, immersive environment that engages all senses, leaving a lasting impression on those who traverse it. Every crossing becomes a story, a memory, and a cautionary tale. The devil-esque backbone endures as a place where the unseen is present. The atmosphere is thick with tension, and every step, every glance, and every sound contributes to an unforgettable experience. A testament to the mysteries that still exist in Central Texas, and to the enduring allure of places that defy understanding. The devil-esque backbone endures as a place where the unseen is present. The atmosphere is thick with tension, and every step, every glance, and every sound contributes to an unforgettable experience. Widow's Creek Bridge stretches over dark waters, its structure weathered and quiet under the night sky. The air is heavy with moisture and the faint scent of earth from the creek below. Streetlights flicker intermittently, casting uneven pools of light across the asphalt. The bridge appears ordinary at first glance, yet a closer look reveals an atmosphere thick with history and subtle unease. Phantom cars are often reported appearing without warning. They materialize in the darkness, headlights cutting through the mist, sometimes stopping in the middle of the bridge as if waiting for an invisible driver to pass. Travelers approaching these vehicles feel a tension in the air, a subtle warning that something is not as it seems. The lights shift, reflecting oddly off the asphalt and creating shadows that do not align with the surrounding landscape. Whispers ride the wind across the bridge. They are faint at first, almost indistinguishable from the rustling of leaves or the hum of distant traffic. Over time, these whispers become more distinct, repeating names, phrases, or fragments of conversations. Drivers alone report a growing unease, the sensation that the words are directed at them, meant to be heard and heeded. The wind seems to carry intention, shaping sound into messages that are fleeting yet unforgettable. Lights on the bridge behave unpredictably. Street lamps flicker and blink without reason, casting the road in intermittent shadow. Headlights of passing cars sometimes distort, glowing brighter or dimming, creating a sense of movement where none exists. Radios crackle and warp, voices blending with static in ways that make communication nearly impossible. Every element combines to form an environment that is both disorienting and compelling, drawing attention to details that are easily overlooked elsewhere. Cold gusts sweep across the asphalt. They move with sudden intensity, brushing against the skin and leaving chills in their wake. Many who cross the bridge alone report the sensation of unseen hands brushing their shoulders or trailing along the arms. The effect is brief yet vivid, a reminder that the environment is not entirely governed by natural forces. Each gust, each shiver of air, heightens awareness and contributes to the growing tension felt by those who travel the span at night. The structure itself seems to respond to presence. The sounds are often amplified or delayed, echoing in ways that suggest movement beyond the physical. Shadows creep along the railing and across the roadway, shifting as though the bridge has its own consciousness. Travelers feel as though they are observed, not by any single entity, but by a collection of presences bound to the bridge by memory and circumstance. Footsteps on the pavement carry differently here. Approaching footsteps echo from empty areas, blending with the sounds of cars, wind, and water below. Sometimes the echoes are louder, sometimes softer, never consistent with the surrounding environment. This unpredictability keeps attention sharpened, each step accompanied by a heightened awareness of sound and space. The bridge challenges perception, testing the ability to distinguish between natural and unnatural phenomena. Witnesses describe moments of frozen time. A passing vehicle may seem to linger, headlights fixed on a single point. Shadows pause mid-motion, reflecting shapes that defy explanation. Even the flowing creek below appears to slow, water glinting unnaturally under the moonlight. These fleeting distortions leave travelers with a sense of disorientation, as if the bridge exists in a space slightly removed from ordinary reality. Many accounts describe an accumulation of energy tied to accidents and events from the past. The bridge appears to hold the memory of these moments, creating an atmosphere where echoes of the past intersect with the present. Each step, each glance at flickering lights or moving shadows becomes a reminder of those who once traversed the bridge and the residual energy they may have left behind. The experience of crossing Widows, Creek Bridge is immersive and multisensory. The interplay of light, shadow, sound, and temperature creates a narrative that is experienced rather than simply observed. Travelers describe a sense of tension building with every moment, a quiet insistence that demands attention and awareness. The bridge does not rush, yet the passage is filled with incidents that mark memory and perception indelibly. Time feels altered on the bridge. Seconds may stretch, moments of hesitation magnified by the echoing whispers and flickering lights. The combination of environmental phenomena and residual energy transforms a simple crossing into an encounter with the unknown. Every visitor emerges with impressions of glowing headlights, moving shadows, and unseen touches that linger long after leaving the asphalt behind. Even in daylight, the bridge retains a subtle sense of watchfulness. Shadows appear where they should not. Sounds echo in unusual patterns. And the occasional flicker of light. Reminds travelers that the phenomena are not limited to night. The Bridgia-esque presence is constant, a quiet force that persists regardless of time, weather, or human activity. Its history and energy remain, shaping perception, and creating a space where natural and unexplained forces intersect. Crossing Wittawa Creek Bridge is to step into a liminal space where ordinary reality meets something beyond understanding. The flickering lights, phantom vehicles, murmuring winds, and cold touches all combine to create an atmosphere both beautiful and unsettling. Travelers emerge aware of forces at play, some subtle, others unmistakably present, leaving the bridge with an impression that is both haunting and unforgettable. The bridge endures as a place of mystery and quiet tension. Every crossing reinforces the presence of unseen activity and residual memory. Lights flicker, shadows shift, whispers drift, and gusts of air move with purpose. Each element contributes to a continuous narrative, shaping the experience of all who enter. Widow's Creek Bridge remains a testament to the intersection of history, environment, and the unexplained, a location where the ordinary is constantly challenged by the extraordinary. Blood Moon Overpass rises silently above the darkened landscape, a stretch of highway that transforms under the gaze of a full moon. The bridge is set aglow with an unnatural red light, bathing the asphalt in a color that seems impossible, otherworldly. Shadows are elongated, colors muted and distorted, and the ordinary becomes unfamiliar, a threshold between reality and something beyond comprehension. Drivers who venture across the overpass often speak of seeing headlights approaching from the far side. At first, it seems like another vehicle, a routine encounter on a quiet road. Yet as the distance closes, the approaching lights move without form. No engine hums, no tires touch the asphalt. The headlights float, illuminating the lanes and the shadows, creating a sense of expectation that is never fulfilled. Shadowy figures appear along the sides of the overpass. They are tall, indistinct, their forms blur at the edges as if the moonlight cannot fully define them. When headlights approach, they vanish instantly, leaving only the impression that they were there moments before. Some stand in silence. Others seem to move slowly, pacing or gliding along the barriers. The effect is both unsettling and mesmerizing, a reminder that the space is no longer merely a road, but a conduit for forces unseen. The surface of the overpass itself seems alive. Tires passing over the asphalt experience vibrations that rise and fall without apparent cause. A subtle quivering that sets the body on edge. Some drivers report the sensation of weight pressing down through the seat and steering wheel, as if the road itself is aware of the passage of vehicles. These vibrations fluctuate with no discernible pattern, intensifying unpredictably and fading just as suddenly, adding to the sense that the overpass is more than concrete and steel. The air around Blood Moon Overpass carries a strange intensity. A cool wind often rises along the lanes, carrying faint sound that seem to originate both near and far. Whispers float over the bridge, sometimes urgent, sometimes mournful, blending with the hum of the night. Even the silence between the sounds is heavy, charged with expectation and unease. It is as if the space is alive with presence, attentive to those who cross it. Light behaves differently here. The red glow of the full moon exaggerates every contour, creating a surreal landscape where edges blur and perspective warps. Ordinary details of cracks in the road, metal barriers. Overhead seems to take on a spectral quality. Drivers feel the familiar becomes strange, the mundane transformed into a stage for phenomena that defy ordinary explanation. Encounters on the overpass vary in intensity. Some are subtle, a shadow glimpse at the corner of vision, a faint tapping or vibration beneath the tires, a whisper carried on the wind. Others are more pronounced, the headlights that approach and vanish, or figures that appear solid enough to touch before dissolving. Each event leaves a lasting impression, a mixture of awe and unease, a reminder that the bridge is a place where ordinary reality is suspended. The experience of driving across Blood Moon Overpass is immersive and personal. Every step, every turn, every glance is heightened. The senses become alert, capturing subtle movements and sound that would be unnoticed elsewhere. The combination of vibration, shadow, and spectral light creates a dialogue between the traveler and the environment, one that cannot be entirely anticipated or controlled. It is a test of perception, a confrontation with the unknown, a test of the driver's ability to navigate the unknown, a confrontation with the unknown, where the boundaries between reality and the supernatural blur. Time feels different on the overpass. Minutes stretch, perceptions shift, and the rhythm of the road becomes uncertain. Drivers report moments where distance seems compressed or expanded, where the approach of the unseen headlights feels both immediate and delayed. The bridge transforms into a liminal space, a passage not only between points of the map, but between states of awareness, where the familiar rules of navigation and expectation no longer fully apply. Blood Moon Overpass is not simply a stretch of highway. It is a convergence of environment, light, and unseen presence. Every red glow, every vibration, every vanishing figure contributes to an atmosphere that is immersive, unsettling, and unforgettable. The bridge challenges understanding and perception, inviting those who cross it to witness phenomena that linger long after the journey has ended. Would you dare to drive across Blood Moon Overpass under the full moon, to feel the vibrations beneath your tires, see the approaching lights that do not belong to any vehicle, and witness figures that vanish when approached, and experience a road that is alive in ways you cannot fully explain, leaving you changed by the presence that moves unseen among the red glow of night? Phantom River Bridge stretches across a dark, slow-moving river, a structure both imposing and quiet, suspended between dense forested banks. The water below seems endless and deep, absorbing every sound and movement. Travelers approach the bridge with an unspoken awareness, a subtle tension that grows with each step along its worn surface. The history of the bridge is layered with tragedy. Countless drownings have marked its past, leaving an invisible imprint that some say lingers in the air. Locals tell of a weight in the atmosphere, a heaviness that settles over the structure and the surrounding river, as if the water itself remembers the lives claimed within it. As drivers enter Phantom River Bridge, the world shifts. Fog often rises without warning, thick and impenetrable, obscuring the far side and creating the sensation of traveling into another dimension. The familiar road disappears beneath a veil of gray, and the edges of the bridge fade into mist, leaving only the immediate span visible. Within this fog, sound becomes strange and distorted, carrying further than expected or seeming to originate from nowhere. Many travelers describe unusual occurrences that begin subtly and intensify as the journey continues. Vehicles appear alongside them, headlights cutting through the mist, only to vanish moments later. The sudden absence leaves a lingering impression, a sense of unease that grows with every glance over the shoulder. These phantom vehicles obey no rules of physics, moving silently, appearing without warning, and disappearing without explanation. Spectral figures are often seen leaning over the railings, motionless yet undeniably present. They watch the river below with an intensity that is impossible to ignore. Some are described as partially transparent, others as mere silhouettes against the fog, yet all convey a silent sorrow or curiosity. Drivers report the sensation of eyes upon them, a gaze that follows even as the figures vanish into the mist or dissolve into the darkness. Mechanical sounds are distorted and disorienting. Radios hiss with static even when turned off. Engines rev without vehicles present. And the occasional horn sounds somewhere in the distance, echoing across the river and fading before its source can be identified. These anomalies are brief but unnerving, leaving those who experience them unsure if they are real or imagined, yet always aware of a presence that defies explanation. The bridge itself seems to respond to the movements of those who traverse it. Subtle shifts in light, unexpected drafts of air, and the rise of fog all contribute to a heightened awareness. Drivers and pedestrians alike report moments where time feels altered, where minutes stretch into what seems like hours, or where movement to the span feels slower or heavier than it should. The water below is dark and reflective, appearing almost alive in the changing light. Small ripples form with no discernible cause, and shadows move along the surface, as if something beneath stirs in response to the presence above. At times, the river seems to pull attention downwards, a hypnotic and almost magnetic draw that compels observation while enhancing the unease of those on the bridge. Fog can settle in sudden, dense banks, engulfing the bridge completely. Visibility drops to near zero, and the familiar structure feels alien and disorienting. Headlights cut through the gray but fail to penetrate its entirety, and the edges of the bridge blur, creating a sensation of isolation and exposure. Drivers often report a silence that is unnatural, a stillness unbroken by wind, water, or human activity, heightening the tension and sense of vulnerability. Despite the eerie phenomena, the bridge holds a strange, haunting beauty. The interplay of mist, water, and light transforms the scene into something cinematic, a place where the ordinary becomes extraordinary. The reflections on the river, the shadows shifting within the fog, and the silent figures on the railings all combine to create a landscape that is both captivating and unsettling. Encounters on Phantom River Bridge are often brief but leave lasting impressions. Those who experience the anomalies describe heightened senses, the awareness of unseen presences, and the persistent feeling that the bridge itself is aware of their passage. Each trip becomes a personal journey, an interaction with a location where memory, perception, and the residual energy of the past converge. Attempts to document these occurrences are rarely successful. Cameras fail to capture the faint forms fully. Audio records partial or distorted sounds. And fog alters light in ways that defy explanation. The bridge preserves its mysteries, offering experiences that must be lived rather than reproduced, ensuring each encounter remains unique and personal. Nightfall amplifies the spectral qualities of the bridge. Darkness envelopes the structure, the river below absorbs any reflected light, and the fog thickens to form curtains of gray. Phantom vehicles and figures appear more frequently, their movements and presence accentuated by the limited visibility. Engine sounds, distant whispers, and untraceable movements create an immersive environment that is simultaneously terrifying and compelling. Travelers often leave Phantom River Bridge with a lingering awareness, a subtle echo of the sensations experienced during their passage. The fog, the river, and the spectral presences remain in memory, influencing perception long after leaving. There is a sense that the bridge watches, that the river remembers, and that the events of countless past encounters are woven into the very air and structure of the location. Phantom River Bridge is more than a simple crossing over water. It is a nexus of history, memory, and the unexplained. Shadows, mist, spectral figures, and mysterious sounds converge to create a cinematic, immersive experience. Those who traverse it find themselves part of a living story, a journey shaped by the unseen, and an encounter that resonates long after the bridge itself has been left behind. Echo Hollow Bridge spans a deep valley, its structure rising above the forested slopes like a narrow path suspended between worlds. The like a narrow path suspended between worlds. The bridgia as steel and concrete gleam faintly in moonlight, yet the atmosphere carries a weight far beyond its physical form. Each crossing seems deliberate and careful, a journey that tests perception and composure. Travelers report sensations that cannot be explained by ordinary means. Engine noises are heard behind vehicles, growing louder as if another car is closing in, yet mirrors reveal nothing. The hum of tires on asphalt mingles with the phantom sound, creating a surreal auditory experience. The effect is disorienting, leaving drivers tense and alert. Footsteps, soft and deliberate, are sometimes heard along the guardrails, echoing across the span, though no one is present to create them. Shadowy figures are glimpsed at the edges of lanes. They appear briefly, standing motionless, sometimes seeming to lean over or reach out, only to vanish the instant they are approached. Their presence is fleeting yet deeply unsettling, leaving a lingering impression that something watches, waits, and interacts with those who traverse the bridge. Phantom headlights are a frequent report. In mirrors, drivers see lights approaching rapidly, growing closer with each moment. Just as suddenly as they appear, the lights vanish without trace, leaving only darkness and the sensation that the bridge itself is playing with perception. These experiences often occur during heavy fog or after sunset, when visibility is reduced and the mind is more receptive to subtle anomalies. Each crossing becomes a careful negotiation between observation, intuition, and the road itself. The structure of the bridge contributes to its eerie effect. Its narrow lanes leave little room for error, while guardrails provide a minimal buffer against the steep drop below. Curves and elevations feel exaggerated, especially in fog or darkness. Travelers describe the sensation that the bridge twists subtly underfoot, guiding or misdirecting in ways that heighten awareness. Every turn, every incline, and every shadow corner contributes to a cinematic, immersive environment. Sounds carry strangely across Echo Hollow Bridge. The valley below acts as a natural amplifier, making even small noises resonate unnaturally. A snapped twig, a shift of metal, or the flutter of distant wings can sound magnified and deliberate. Even the wind seems to move through the structure with purpose, producing moans, whistles, and murmurs that interact with the physical world and imagination. Travelers often describe persistent awareness, a sense that the bridge is alive, recording movement and reacting subtly to each presence. Time feels altered while crossing. Minutes stretch or compress, leaving travelers unsure of distance or duration. Familiar sections appear elongated or shortened. Landmarks that should be clear become ambiguous, reinforcing the sensation of disorientation. Some visitors recount moments when the road ahead seemed to loop or fold unexpectedly, as if the bridge is a living entity capable of influencing perception. These temporal distortions add another layer to the forested and fog-bound environment. Summer nights bring heat, humidity, and thick fog, which intensifies a mysterious ambience. Autumn introduces crisp air, early darkness, and a rustle of leaves below that echoes across the valley, amplifying the sense of isolation. Winter adds frost, occasional snow, and longer shadows, enhancing the contrast between light and dark while deepening the sensation of walking into another realm. Each season preserves the Bridgia-esque enigmatic qualities while offering distinct sensory experiences. The Bridgia-esque reputation is reinforced by local lore. Stories of vehicles appearing and disappearing, sudden cold gusts, and phantom presences are shared among residents and travelers alike. Tales of those who felt guided or watched emphasize that the bridge is not merely a structure, but a place where natural and supernatural perceptions converge. Crossing alone is often warned against, as many experiences are reported by solitary travelers who are more attuned to subtle anomalies in sound, light, and movement. Visitors describe a sense of lingering awareness after leaving the bridge. The echoes of phantom engines, fleeting shadows, and faint footsteps remain vivid in memory. The valley, the fog, and the bridge seem to imprint on consciousness, creating a lasting impression of an environment that is both beautiful and unervingly alive. Even in daylight, travelers recall the tension, the subtle distortions of space, and the lingering sense of observation that accompanies the bridge. The visual experience is equally compelling. Shadows stretch and twist independently, forming shapes that seem deliberate. Light refracts off wet asphalt and metal, creating brief glimmers that draw the eye and vanish when focused upon. Every glance, every movement, and every change in perspective contributes to an immersive narrative, making the bridge feel cinematic and interactive. Echo Hollow Bridge is a place of contrasts. It is both beautiful and unsettling, elevated yet enclosed, silent yet filled with layered sounds. The fog, shadows, phantom lights, and subtle curvature of the road combine to create an environment that tests perception, intuition, and composure. Each crossing is an experience, a story, and a memory, leaving travelers with impressions that endure long after the journey ends. Ultimately, the bridge serves as a threshold. It blends natural phenomena with inexplicable anomalies, providing a space where perception and imagination converge. The presence of shadows, phantom vehicles, shifting trails, and subtle sounds engages every sense and creates an atmosphere that is immersive and memorable. Every step across the bridge feels deliberate, each observation significant, and every encounter leaves a lasting impact. Crossing Echo Hollow Bridge is more than a journey from one side to the other. It is an exploration of perception, awareness, and the unknown. The structure watches, responds, and persists, creating a cinematic, immersive experience that lingers in the mind. The fog, shadows, echoes, and subtle distortions are not merely phenomena, but participants in a narrative that continues long after leaving the bridge. Travelers remember the experience, the tension, and the lingering sense that the bridge itself is aware, quietly interacting with all who cross it. Blackwater Crossing stretches across a wide, dark bayou, its asphalt glistening under the faint light of the moon. Mist rises from the water, curling around the base of the bridge and drifting across the roadway. The surrounding cypress trees loom like silent sentinels, their twisted branches reaching toward the night sky. Every element combines to create an atmosphere heavy with anticipation and unease. Vehicles crossing the bridge sometimes vanish without warning. Drivers report moments of disorientation, a sudden fog that swallows the headlights, and the eerie sensation that the bridge extends far longer than it should. When the fog lifts, the vehicle may reappear, but travelers describe brief instances where they were alone on the asphalt, unsure if the world around them has shifted or if something unseen has intervened. Phantom cars are a common phenomenon. They appear suddenly, often matching the make and model of the driver's own vehicle. Headlights flash in precise patterns, mirroring those of the approaching driver, as if the bridge itself is reflecting their presence. These apparitions move with impossible coordination, appearing close yet remaining unreachable. The effect is disorienting, leaving drivers questioning perception, reality, and the unseen forces that govern the crossing. The air over Blackwater Crossing grows dense and heavy. Each inhalation carries a weight that presses on the chest, as if the atmosphere itself is aware of the living moving through it. A faint, almost imperceptible vibration seems to hum through the bridge, amplifying every sound and movement. A sensation of being watched is constant. Shadows flit at the periphery of vision, moving independently of natural light or wind. Travelers feel eyes upon them, an intangible presence that does not rest. Even those who attempt to remain calm describe an instinctive tension, a subtle urge to maintain speed, to cross quickly, and to avoid prolonged exposure to the bridge's unseen observers. Lights behave unpredictably along the span. Street lamps flicker without reason, illuminating patches of road only to leave others in sudden darkness. Headlights of passing vehicles flare and dim inexplicably, creating illusions of approaching traffic. Occasionally, reflections in rearview mirrors reveal shapes that vanish when looked at directly. These phenomena are not aggressive, but they create a constant tension, an atmosphere where the ordinary is suspended and the unusual feels inevitable. The water beneath the bridge is dark and unyielding, reflecting only fragmented glimpses of moonlight. Ripples occasionally form without wind, suggesting motion in the depths below. The combination of fog, shadow, and distorted reflection makes it difficult to gauge distance or orientation. Every glance over the edge of the guardrail reinforces the sense that the bridge exists in a space partially divorced from reality, a threshold between the natural world and something less understood. Travelers frequently report sudden changes in perception. The bridge may appear to lengthen, the fog may thicken in waves, and familiar landmarks seem to shift or disappear entirely. These alterations are subtle yet disorienting, enhancing the sensation that the crossing is a living entity, aware of those who traverse it. Movement across the span requires attention and respect, as even small distractions may intensify the Bridgia's influence. Travelers frequently report sudden changes in perception. The sounds of Blackwater Crossing are deceptive. Engines hum, tires squeal lightly, and wind brushes against the undercarriage. Yet these ordinary noises are layered with the extraordinary. Footsteps sometimes echo along the asphalt when no one is present outside the vehicle. Soft hums or low tones seem to vibrate through the frame of the bridge, responding to movement in ways that cannot be explained by natural acoustics alone. Phantom interactions are subtle but unforgettable. A brush against the shoulder, a momentary tug of the seatbelt, or the faint vibration of an empty car suggests that unseen entities engage with travelers. These touches are rarely frightening in isolation, but their unpredictability heightens awareness and reinforces the sensation that the crossing is alive with presence. Each encounter is brief, yet leaves a lasting impression. Visibility is often limited by fog that clings to the bridge. Headlights cut narrow paths through the mist, illuminating only moments of the roadway ahead. Trees loom like dark monuments, their shapes shifting as the fog moves. The bridge seems to guide the fog, shaping it into forms that obscure and reveal, creating an ever-changing tableau that is both beautiful and unnerving. Even in daylight, Blackwater Crossing retains its peculiar energy. The air is still thick, shadows linger in unexpected places, and the reflective surface of the water occasionally displays images that vanish upon closer inspection. The phantom activity may be less intense, but the Bridgia's presence is persistent. It exists as a space where memory, perception, and residual energy converge, shaping the experience of all who pass. Crossing Blackwater Crossing is to encounter a threshold between the familiar and the unknown. Lights flash, shadows move, whispers ride the wind, and unseen hands brush past. Each vehicle becomes part of the Bridgia's story, a transient observer navigating a landscape that responds with subtle precision. The crossing leaves an indelible mark on memory, a reminder that some places exist on the edge of understanding, blending the ordinary with the extraordinary. Blackwater Crossing endures as a location of mystery, tension, and subtle engagement. Drivers emerge in the fog, carrying an impression of glowing lights, shifting shadows, and a near-constant awareness of unseen watchers. Every phenomenon of the phantom cars, the weight of the air, the unpredictability of light and sound contributes to a cinematic experience that is immersive, haunting, and unforgettable. The bridge remains a testament to the power of environment, memory, and unseen forces, a crossing where the ordinary rules of the road no longer fully apply. Hallowed Pines Overpass rises quietly above a narrow valley, surrounded on all sides by dense forests of towering pines. The trees form a natural corridor, their trunks like silent sentinels, casting deep shadows across the lanes. Even in the light of day, the overpass feels enclosed, isolated, a place apart from the ordinary world. On foggy nights, the atmosphere becomes almost otherworldly, the mist curling along the asphalt, softening edges and hiding what lies beyond. Drivers report seeing shadowy shapes flanking the lanes. At first, the figures appear distant, obscured by darkness or fog. Then, they seem closer, moving with a subtle fluidity that is unnatural. Approaching headlights illuminate the forms briefly, yet when focused upon, the shapes vanish, leaving no trace. These glimpses are fleeting, but enough to make the mind question perception, as if the overpass itself is capable of shaping what is seen. The road underfoot seems alive to those who travel it. Sudden drops in temperature create a chilling sensation. a cold that seeps through clothing and grips the body. Radios frequently experience static or unexplained interference, their signals cutting in and out without reason. The combination of cold interference and shadowy figures heightens the sense that this is not simply a bridge, but a place charged with unseen energy, a threshold between the familiar and the supernatural. Light behaves strangely on Hallowed Pines Overpass. Headlights reflect in areas where no asphalt exists, illuminating the fog in ways that feel impossible. The mist bends and scatters light, creating illusions of movement and form. Shadows stretch and twist across the lanes, forming shapes that are almost recognizable before dissolving into darkness. Every beam, every glint, and every reflection seems deliberate, as if the environment itself is aware of those who traverse it. The atmosphere is heavy with an otherworldly presence. The darkness seems to be alive, watching and waiting. The driver's heart races as they navigate the treacherous, supernatural landscape. The driver's senses are on high alert, anticipating the unknown. The supernatural forces are closing in. The overpass is not only visually disorienting, but acoustically unusual. Sounds are muted, carried differently than expected, or amplified in strange ways. A footstep on the shoulder of the road echoes like thunder, while the rustle of leaves can seem impossibly close. Occasionally, faint whispers accompany these sounds, soft and unintelligible, carried by the wind in unpredictable patterns. Each auditory anomaly adds layers to the sensation that the bridge is inhabited by forces beyond ordinary understanding. Traveling across the bridge evokes a heightened sense of awareness. Every movement is noticed, every shadow observed, every sound questioned. The Rwanda-esque isolation and the dense surrounding forest contribute to a feeling of exposure, a sense that one is part of an environment that responds to presence. Those who cross it often describe a strange dialogue between themselves and the overpass, an interaction that is subtle, pervasive, and impossible to ignore. The energy surrounding Hallowed Pines Overpass is tied to local legends. Stories tell of accidents and deaths in the surrounding area, and the bridge is said to absorb the energy of those who perished nearby. This history, whether literal or symbolic, contributes to the atmosphere, making the bridge feel heavier, more attentive, and more alive than an ordinary roadway. Visitors speak of an emotional weight that is almost tangible, a lingering presence that persists long after leaving the site. Fog and weather play a significant role in the experience. Shadows and light shift constantly, creating illusions that can make the road appear longer, shorter, or distorted. Rain and wind amplify sounds, carrying them in ways that are difficult to locate. Even small environmental changes feel significant, as though the forest and overpass respond to every passing vehicle and every human presence. Time on Hallowed Pines Overpass feels altered. Seconds stretch, movement is slowed, and perception of distance becomes uncertain. Drivers often report that what should be a brief crossing feels extended, each moment filled with heightened sensation and awareness. The overpass becomes a liminal space, a bridge not only across a valley, but between states of perception, where ordinary expectations are challenged and the boundary between the natural and the mysterious is blurred. Encounters with the unexplained are subtle yet profound. Shadowy figures, sudden cold, static interference, and impossible reflections all contribute to an immersive experience. These phenomena are never violent, but they evoke a deep sense of curiosity and respect. Travelers leave with memories of sights and sensations that linger, a personal record of interaction with a place that is alive in ways that defy explanation. Hallowed Pines Overpass is more than a road. It is an environment, a living corridor of shadow, mist, and energy. Every sight, sound, and sensation contributes to a profound atmosphere that engages the senses and challenges perception. The combination of natural isolation, dense forests, and unexplained phenomena creates a space that is immersive, unforgettable, and haunting in its quiet intensity. Would you dare to drive across Hallowed Pines Overpass on a fog-filled night, to feel the cold rise and static hum through the air? to glimpse shadowy figures along the lanes, to witness headlights reflect where no road exists, and to experience a bridge that holds the energy of the past, leaving a mark on memory and awareness that cannot be erased. Ravina S. Bend Bridge stretches over a winding river, its steel framework looming against a fog that often blankets the water below. Travelers approach with an unspoken caution, a subtle awareness that the bridge carries more than just vehicles and pedestrians. As one drives across, the atmosphere changes. Shadows shift in ways that seem deliberate, stretching and retreating along the edges of perception. The air feels heavier here, charged with an unseen energy that presses against the senses, heightening every sound and movement. Phantom vehicles are a common occurrence. Cars appear suddenly alongside drivers, their headlights cutting through the mist, only to vanish without warning. There is no trace of tires on the asphalt, no sound of engines, yet the fleeting presence leaves a lasting impression. The sudden appearance and disappearance of these vehicles create a tension that is immediate and disorienting, forcing focus and caution with every turn of the wheel. Shadowy figures sometimes lean over the guardrails, their forms partially obscured by fog. Some drivers report feeling watched, as if unseen eyes follow the car's progress across the span. Others describe an inexplicable sensation of movement in the vehicle itself, subtle nudges or shifts that seem to guide or deter, as though the bridge itself is asserting influence over those who traverse it. The structure of Raven's Bend contributes to its enigmatic presence. The metal framework creaks under its own weight, responding to the river's current and the movement of vehicles. Fog collects along the beams and guardrails, forming a curtain that alters perception and heightens the sense of isolation. Every step along the bridge, whether by foot or by vehicle, becomes an intimate interaction with the environment, a negotiation with both the physical and the intangible. Accidents in the past seem to echo through the present. The bridge bears a memory of collisions, near misses, and lives disrupted. Some believe this residual energy influences the occurrences on the bridge, feeding the subtle phenomena that manifest in fog, shadow, and movement. It is as if the history of misfortune has imprinted itself on the environment, creating an invisible presence that persists across time. Sound behaves strangely along Ravina S. Bend. The hum of an engine may resonate longer than expected. Footsteps echo in directions that defy the layout of the bridge, and the wind carries whispers that seem almost intentional. Radios hiss without being activated. Horns sound distantly with no identifiable source. And the natural rhythm of the river below is punctuated by unexpected creaks and taps. These auditory anomalies heighten awareness, pulling attention toward details that might otherwise go unnoticed. Fog and light interact in ways that enhance the Bridgia's uncanny atmosphere. Headlights cut through dense patches unevenly, revealing glimpses of phantom figures or vehicles only to have them vanish moments later. The interplay of illumination and shadow creates fleeting images that feel almost tangible, yet disappear before they can be examined. Each encounter reinforces a sensation that Ravina S. Bend is a place where perception is tested and reality is subtly altered. The Bridgia's edges offer a direct connection to the river below. Water moves slowly, dark and reflective, absorbing light and sound. Small ripples appear without cause, and shadows dance along the surface in ways that seem responsive to the presence above. The combination of river, fog, and the structural element of the bridge produces a space where natural and supernatural perceptions blend, leaving visitors uncertain of what is real and what is imagined. Nightfall transforms Ravina S. Bend into an even more mysterious environment. Phantom vehicles appear more frequently in limited visibility, and shadowed figures seem closer, more immediate. Every sound, movement, and visual cue is amplified, creating an immersive experience that is both captivating and unsettling. Travelers often report a lingering awareness after crossing the bridge. The memory of shadows, phantom vehicles, and subtle nudges remains, influencing perception long after leaving. The bridge, in a sense, continues to exert presence, embedding itself in thought and memory. Every creak of metal, ripple of water, and shift of fog becomes part of the recollection, forming a mosaic of sensations that resists full understanding. Attempts to document or explain the Bridgia as anomalies are rarely successful. Cameras flatten depth, recordings distort sounds, and fog alters light in ways that evade reproduction. The experiences remain primarily personal, ephemeral, and resistant to objective analysis. Ravina S. Ben preserves its mysteries, offering encounters that are lived rather than fully recorded, ensuring that each passage across the span is unique. Despite the tension and uncertainty, the bridge possesses a haunting beauty. The mist curling along the guardrails and the interplay of light and shadow create a cinematic quality. The environment commands attention and respect, drawing travelers into a delicate balance of fascination and caution. Ravina S. Ben Bridge is more than a structure spanning water. It is a place where history, perception, and the unexplained converge. Shadows, fog, phantom vehicles, and subtle movements combine to create an immersive, cinematic experience. Those who traverse the bridge become part of a living story, an encounter shaped by the unseen forces that linger within the mist and the steel, leaving an impression that endures long after the journey has ended. Silver Mist Bridge rises above the valley like a ribbon suspended in the air, often swallowed by fog that drifts across the surface and conceals the edges. The mist curls along guardrails and cables, muting colors and dampening sounds. Light is scattered, diffused, and refracted, creating illusions of shapes and movement that vanish the moment they are focused upon. Crossing the bridge becomes an exercise in heightened awareness, each glance and step carrying weight and tension. Travelers frequently report phenomena that defy explanation. Headlights appear in the distance, faint at first, traveling toward vehicles as though guided by unseen hands. As they near, the lights vanish abruptly, leaving darkness and a lingering sense of presence. In mirrors, drivers glimpse ghostly forms that seem to float just behind or beside their own reflection. These apparitions vanish when observed directly, leaving only a fleeting impression that something unseen is observing the journey. The bridge itself seems to stretch beyond physical limits. Familiar landmarks disappear into grayness, and the roadway appears elongated or warped, creating the impression that the bridge is endless. Travelers describe subtle curvature changes and shifts in perspective that make crossing disorienting, a careful balance between observation and instinct. Each journey across becomes an immersive experience, where reality and perception intertwine. Sound behaves unusually along Silver Mist Bridge. The fog carries faint echoes of tires, wind, and distant movements, sometimes exaggerating ordinary noises into something unfamiliar. A snapped twig or clatter of metal reverberates in a way that makes travelers question distance and origin. Soft murmurs or rustles sometimes accompany these sounds, leaving the impression of presence without visibility. Even natural wildlife is muted, lending an eerie silence to the bridge and amplifying awareness of every small disturbance. Seasonal changes affect the Bridgia-S character. Summer fog thickens during early mornings and late evenings, providing the most pronounced visual distortions. Autumn adds crisp air and shifting shadows, while fallen leaves create muted, irregular patterns beneath tires. Winter frost and occasional snowfall intensify reflections and refracted light, enhancing the surreal atmosphere. Each season maintains the Bridgia-S enigmatic qualities while offering a distinct sensory experience that captivates and unnerves. The narrow lanes and guardrails contribute to the tension. Every curve requires careful attention, and each shift in fog density can create illusions of movement or hidden shapes. Shadowy forms at lane edges seem to move with purpose, lingering in peripheral vision, reinforcing the sense that the bridge is observed by unseen eyes. Even those familiar with the roadway report heightened awareness and moments of uncertainty as they cross. The sense that the bridge is observed by unseen eyes. Phantom headlights and fleeting figures are central to the Bridgia-S reputation. Vehicles appear as though approaching from a distance, only to vanish without trace. Figures and mirrors create an unsettling impression of presence just out of reach. Travelers often describe a combination of fear and curiosity, a pull to continue, while simultaneously sensing that the environment is testing attention and perception. These interactions leave lasting impressions, lingering long after the bridge is crossed. The fog amplifies visual and auditory phenomena. Light from distant vehicles or moonlight reflects unpredictably. Sounds are softened, amplified, or distorted, creating a sensory environment that is both immersive and disorienting. Travelers experience moments when the ordinary seems unreal, when every movement or shadow feels charged with subtle intention, and when each step on asphalt carries weight beyond the physical. Time itself seems altered while crossing. Distance feels ambiguous, and moments stretch or compress unexpectedly. Travelers report that the span feels longer or shorter than expected, adding to the bridge's mystique. Peripheral shapes appear to shift with each glance, reinforcing disorientation and encouraging careful observation. This temporal distortion enhances immersive atmosphere, leaving travelers questioning perception and memory even after leaving the bridge. Local stories emphasize caution. Crossing alone is said to increase the likelihood of encounters with phantom lights and ghostly figures. Some speak of vehicles disappearing entirely or returning with subtle changes. Others recount moments of being guided by unseen forces, sometimes with subtle gestures, like the sway of fog or the reflection of light, that prompt heightened awareness. The bridge exists as a place where natural and supernatural perceptions converge, creating a unique environment for every traveler. The bridge leaves a lasting impression on those who cross. The combination of fog, illusions, phantom headlights, and fleeting figures engage all senses. Even in daylight, travelers recall the experience, the tension, and the subtle shifts in perception. Shadows seem longer, light appears altered, and awareness of surrounding landscape persists. Silver Mist Bridge endures as a cinematic, immersive space, where the line between reality and imagination blurs. Ultimately, Silver Mist Bridge is more than a structure. It functions as a threshold, a space where perception, awareness, and the unknown intersect. Each crossing becomes an interactive experience, where fog, light, shadows, and sound converge to create a sense of life within the structure. Travelers feel observed, tested, and immersed in an environment that is at once beautiful, enigmatic, and haunting. Every journey across the bridge is a story, a memory, and a subtle interaction with the unseen. The fog, phantom lights, and elusive forms linger in thought long after the roadway ends. Silver Mist Bridge persists as a testament to the mysteries that remain in our world, offering an experience that challenges perception, engages the senses, and leaves a lasting impression on all who dare to cross. And a subtle interaction with the unseen. Dead Man's Curve Bridge twists sharply over the river below, a slender arc of asphalt that demands caution. The surface glistens under moonlight, slick from mist rising off the water, reflecting fleeting glimmers of light that seem almost alive. The surrounding trees lean close, their branches reaching toward the roadway as if observing every vehicle that passes. Phantom headlights are the most frequently reported phenomena. They appear suddenly, low in the curve, and follow drivers with unnerving precision. The beams are bright, cutting through the darkness and fog, yet when drivers swerve or accelerate, the lights vanish instantly. The effect is disorienting, leaving travelers unsure whether what they saw was real or a trick of perception shaped by the Curvia S history. Whispers drift from below the bridge. Some claim they hear cries or faint voices, carried upward from the river or perhaps from the shadows clinging to the bridge's structure. The sounds are brief but piercing, cutting through the quiet night. Drivers instinctively glance down, but the river appears still and empty, holding only its own dark reflection. The weight of the place is palpable. An oppressive sensation settles over hikers and drivers alike, as though unseen eyes are pressing from all directions. Every movement feels observed, every glance measured. The air itself seems heavier, slowing reactions and amplifying the heartbeat of anyone who crosses the span alone. Shadows shift unnaturally along the edges of the bridge. Sometimes they appear solid, other times ethereal, slipping into the darkness as soon as they are noticed. The curve of the bridge itself amplifies sound. Tires hum against asphalt. Wind whips between guardrails. Footsteps of hikers echo in strange patterns. These ordinary noises blend with the extraordinary, making it nearly impossible to discern whether a sound comes from a living person, an animal, or an unseen presence. Drivers describe moments of altered perception. The bridge seems longer than it should, the curve sharper, and the road narrower. These subtle distortions heighten tension, forcing attention to every movement. The familiar sensation of speed and distance becomes unreliable, leaving travelers hyper-aware of their surroundings and the possibility of anything appearing from the shadows. Fog often drifts in sudden, thick waves. It rolls across the bridge like a living veil, obscuring lines of sight and softening the edges of the roadway. Headlights cut through it in narrow beams, illuminating fragments of asphalt and rail. Within these fragments, shapes seem to emerge and dissolve, creating a constantly shifting landscape that feels both threatening and mesmerizing. The river below reflects more than moonlight. Ripples form without wind, suggesting movement beneath the surface. The sound of water lapping against supports and rocks occasionally combines with the whispers, creating a chorus of subtle, eerie tones. Each traveler senses a convergence of multiple stimuli, the visual, auditory, and emotional blending into an experience that is immersive and unsettling. Some report the sensation of being followed even when no vehicle is present. A faint pressure to the back of the neck, a sudden chill across the shoulders, or the fleeting sense of another presence nearby. These touches are invisible yet unmistakable, leaving an impression that is difficult to shake long after leaving the bridge. Lights and shadows interact in strange ways. Streetlights may flicker as if reacting to movement, and reflections in mirrors or windows distort reality. The curve itself seems to manipulate perception, creating illusions of speed, distance, and motion. Travelers must remain vigilant, their senses drawn into a heightened state that blends caution with fear and curiosity. Footsteps of hikers echo across the bridge in ways that defy explanation. Approaching sounds may retreat or vanish entirely before reaching the observer. The same echo may repeat, delayed, or amplified, giving the impression that the path itself is alive and responding to each step. The effect is subtle but constant, reinforcing the sense that Dead Man's Curve is more than a simple roadway. Even in daylight, the bridge retains its aura. Shadows remain longer than expected, and shapes appear at the periphery of vision. The air feels charged, heavier than in surrounding areas. And the Curvia-esque reputation seems to lend weight to ordinary phenomena. Travelers approach with respect, aware that the Bridgia-esque energy persists regardless of time or weather. Crossing Deadmana-esque curve bridge is an experience of heightened awareness. Every glance, sound, and movement is scrutinized by an invisible presence. Phantom headlights, whispers, shadows, and pressure create an immersive environment where perception is tested and ordinary understanding is suspended. Each traveler emerges changed, carrying with them the memory of the Curvia-esque intensity and the sense that they were observed throughout their passage. The bridge endures as a threshold between the ordinary and the unknown. Its sharp curve, the dark waters below, the shifting fog, and the unexplained lights all combine to form a cinematic experience of tension and subtle fear. Dead Man's Curve Bridge remains a place where the familiar road becomes extraordinary, a location where history, environment, and unseen forces converge to create an unforgettable passage through shadow and light. Lost Souls overpass stretches across a deep valley, its steel and concrete rising above darkened waters and shadowed embankments. Fog often settles along its length, drifting in from the surrounding landscape, softening edges and creating an eerie, suspended atmosphere. The bridge is quiet during the day, ordinary in appearance, yet when night falls, it transforms into a corridor where the boundary between the living and the dead seems thin. Drivers approaching the overpass speak of strange lights appearing against traffic. Headlights emerge from the darkness, moving steadily as if another vehicle is approaching. Yet when the distance closes, the lights vanish without a trace. Some vehicles seem solid for a moment, Yet no sound is heard, no engine hums, and no tires touch the asphalt. The effect is disorienting, leaving travelers questioning what is real and what is illusion. The bridge itself seems to exist outside conventional time. Moments stretch and compress, and the pace of crossing feels altered. Drivers report that the overpass can feel both shorter and longer than it should, as though the structure temporarily removes them from the normal flow of reality. Each step of the journey becomes laden with heightened awareness. Every turn of the wheel a cautious negotiation with an environment that is unpredictable and attentive. The environment that is unpredictable and attentive. Lost Souls Overpass is surrounded by subtle but powerful sensations. Sudden chills sweep across the lanes, brushing against the body even when the night air is calm. The soundscape is peculiar, with occasional echoes of movement or muffled noises that cannot be located. Radios frequently experience interference, static filling the cabin without cause. These phenomena combine to create a pervasive sense that the bridge is alive in a way beyond ordinary perception. Travelers often feel a compelling urge to stop while crossing. The lights against traffic draw attention. An instinct encourages deceleration. Yet there is hesitation, a fear that pausing will invite confrontation with forces beyond understanding. Many drivers report a feeling of being watched, of being assessed by unseen eyes as they navigate the overpass. This tension lingers, intensifying a sense of crossing not merely a physical space, but a threshold of awareness and presence. The visual landscape is unsettling. Fog, mist, and shadow obscure familiar reference points, and shapes along the sides of the bridge seem to move subtly. Guardrails and signs take on unfamiliar angles, appearing closer or further than expected. Shadows stretch across the lanes, blending with the environment in ways that suggest form and motion. Every glance to the side or rear view mirror invites a sense of uncertainty, as though the ordinary geometry of the road is in flux. Encounters with the unexplained are varied. Some drivers witness fleeting forms near the asphalt, pale and indistinct, vanishing when focused upon. Others hear footsteps along the edge of the bridge, faint and impossible to locate. The spectral vehicles, whether cars or lights, seem to move independently of logic, appearing, advancing, and then disappearing without warning. Each experience leaves an impression, a mixture of awe, fear, and lingering curiosity. The overpass carries the weight of history. Stories of accidents, deaths, and tragedies along its length contribute to the atmosphere, embedding a sense of remembrance into the environment. Locals speak of the bridge as a place where the energy of the past lingers, shaping the experience of those who traverse it. This historical resonance enhances the feeling that Lost Souls Overpass is more than steel and asphalt. It is a conduit for memory, presence, and spectral activity. Traveling across the bridge demands attention. The combination of fog, shadows, lights, and subtle vibrations engages every sense. Ordinary perception is challenged, requiring focus and awareness, while the mind remains alert for anomalies that might otherwise be dismissed. Each vehicle passing through becomes a participant in the environment, an observer and actor within the dynamic space created by light, mist, and lingering energy. Time spent on Lost Souls Overpass is subjective. The journey feels elongated yet compressed, moments rich with detail and anticipation. Drivers often emerge with a strong impression of having crossed a space apart from the ordinary world, leaving with the memory of spectral lights, untraceable sounds, and the sensation of an unseen presence that moves along the lanes. The bridge imprints itself on consciousness, a subtle yet persistent reminder of the thin divide between the living and the dead. Lost Souls Overpass is a place where ordinary roads end and the extraordinary begins. Every light that vanishes, every chill that rises, every shadow glimpsed from the corner of vision contributes to an immersive, unforgettable experience. The overpass challenges perception, engages the senses, and evokes a sense of awe and unease that persists long after leaving its lanes. Would you dare to cross Lost Souls Overpass at night? To witness headlights that do not belong to any vehicle? To feel the cold sweep along the lanes? To hear sounds that have no source? and to sense the presence of those who remain tethered to the bridge, leaving you momentarily between the living and the dead. Hollow Creek Bridge spans a narrow, darkened waterway, its aged structure weathered by time and countless travelers. The wooden planks and rusted rails carry the weight of both the living and the unseen. The bridge sits suspended between forested banks, a place where shadows gather and fog lingers long after dawn has faded. Travelers often approach with a heightened sense of awareness. The air carries a subtle chill, a weight that presses against the skin and raises attention to every sound. Fog curls around the bridge's supports and drifts across the roadway, obscuring details and making familiar paths seem foreign. The mist acts almost like a veil between the known and the mysterious, inviting caution and curiosity in equal measure. Phantom vehicles are a frequent occurrence. Cars appear alongside those crossing the bridge, perfectly formed yet oddly intangible. They mirror the size and shape of actual vehicles, moving in tandem for moments that stretch the perception of time. Observers report that these apparitions are seamless with reality, blending naturally with their surroundings, only to vanish suddenly without a trace. The experience leaves an impression that lingers long after the bridge has been left behind. Shadowy figures are another reported phenomenon. Passengers sit in the phantom vehicles, their forms indistinct and fluid. When attention is focused directly upon them, they dissolve into the mist or vanish completely, as if their existence is tied to peripheral observation. The presence of these figures evokes both unease and fascination, creating a tension that permeates the journey across the span. The bridge itself seems imbued with memory. It is said to replay tragedies subtly, as if echoing the misfortunes of those who have passed through. Every groan of timber, creak of metal, and ripple of water beneath the structure feels purposeful, a reminder that the bridge is not merely a crossing, but a space charged with accumulated experience. Travelers describe a sense of da copyright ja vu, fleeting moments that feel both familiar and disconcertingly altered. Travelers describe a sense of da copyright ja vu, fleeting moments that feel both familiar and disconcertingly altered. Sounds on Hollow Creek Bridge are amplified and warped. The rustle of leaves along the banks can echo as if nearby, yet originate far away. Wind whistles through the gaps in the rails and under planks, producing rhythms that feel almost intentional. Occasionally, distant engines rev or tires squeal without source, adding an auditory layer to the sense that the bridge is alive in some subtle, inexplicable way. Mist and light interact to create shifting visual effects. Headlights cut through fog, revealing glimpses of phantom vehicles, or shadowy figures only to have them disappear moments later. The interplay of illumination and obscurity enhances the perception of movement, producing fleeting images that are captivating and unsettling. Every reflection in puddles or in the water below seems to carry more than the ordinary, hinting at hidden dimensions of the bridge's presence. Travelers often report a feeling of being observed. It is not aggressive but persistent, as if the bridge itself monitors the passage of each person. Peripheral movements, the sudden shift of fog, or a shadow that appears to align with the observer's gaze all contribute to a heightened awareness. Every step, every turn of the wheel, and every breath is felt more keenly as the environment demands engagement with its subtle dynamics. The water beneath Hollow Creek Bridge is dark and reflective, moving slowly but with an impression of depth that is difficult to measure. Ripples appear without cause, shadows glide along the surface, and the current seems to carry memory as much as it carries water. The river's presence amplifies the bridge's atmosphere, creating an environment where perception, memory, and imagination converge. Night transforms the bridge into an even more enigmatic environment. Darkness deepens the fog, shadows merge and lengthen, and the presence of phantom vehicles and figures becomes more pronounced. The familiar structure seems altered, more labyrinthine, and alive with subtle signals that require careful attention. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile cues produces an immersive experience that is both captivating and disquieting. Attempts to document the phenomena on Hollow Creek Bridge are rarely successful. Cameras often fail to capture depth or clarity. Audio recordings distort, and the fog alters light in ways that resist reproduction. Every crossing is unique, a private encounter with a place where history and perception converge. Despite the tension, the bridge possesses a haunting, melancholic beauty. Mist curls around the rails, the water below reflects fragmented light, and shadows dance across the planks in patterns that seem almost choreographed. The bridge commands respect and attention, drawing travelers into a delicate balance of caution and fascination, awe and reflection. Hollow Creek Bridge is more than a passage over water. It is a space where memory, presence, and the unexplained converge. Shadowed figures, phantom vehicles, and shifting fog create a cinematic, immersive environment that engages the senses and the mind. Those who traverse it leave with impressions that endure, a lingering awareness of a place where the ordinary and the spectral coexist, and where every journey across the span becomes part of the Bridge's enduring story. Devila Spire overpass rises sharply above the surrounding landscape, a concrete and steel expanse stretching over deep valleys and winding terrain. At night, a faint spectral glow seems to cling to the surface, illuminating the guardrails and casting shadows that stretch and twist unnaturally. Fog often settles along the span, rolling in from below, softening shapes and muting sounds, creating an environment where perception becomes uncertain and the ordinary transforms into the uncanny. Travelers report experiences that defy explanation. Figures appear suddenly in the lanes, causing drivers to break in terror. Yet when they step outside to investigate, the roadway is empty, as if whatever appeared had never existed. Headlights reflect off surfaces where asphalt ends, glinting in the fog and creating illusions of movement that vanish when approached. Engine noises echo from nowhere, distant and close simultaneously, leaving a sense that the overpass itself is alive and observing. The structure's elevation amplifies every sensation. The steep drop on either side makes even ordinary navigation tense, and the narrow lanes heighten focus and awareness. Shadows appear elongated, bending over guardrails or along the pavement, interacting with the mist and moonlight in ways that distort perception. Each crossing becomes an immersive experience where every light, shadow, and sound commands attention, creating an environment charged with subtle tension. Each crossing becomes an immersive experience where every light, shadow, and sound commands attention, creating an environment charged with subtle tension. Fog plays a central role in the overpass's eerie character. Fog curls along the edges, obscuring depth and distance, making the span appear longer than it is. Distant lights refract to the haze, forming shapes that seem human or animal, appearing to move and vanish with each glance. Travelers describe moments when familiar sections of road feel altered, with curves sharper and elevations more pronounced, creating a sense that the overpass can manipulate space subtly, guiding or disorienting those who cross. Sound behaves strangely along Devila Spire. Wind whistles through gaps in guardrails and steel structures, producing low, almost vocal tones. Tires on concrete echo in unusual patterns, mixing with distant rustles or the hum of unseen engines. Occasionally, muffled footsteps or subtle thuds are heard in areas where no one walks. These auditory anomalies, combined with visual distortions, reinforce the perception that the overpass itself is attentive, recording and responding to movement with subtle intention. Figures glimpsed along the lanes are often fleeting, appearing just beyond peripheral vision or in reflective surfaces. They may crouch near guardrails, stand motionless, or seem to drift along the roadway. Attempts to focus directly on them cause immediate disappearance, leaving a faint impression of presence without clarity. The interaction creates a sense of being observed, a subtle tension that persists long after the figures vanish. Phantom headlights are a recurring phenomenon. They appear far in the distance, growing closer with each moment, yet vanish before contact is made. In mirrors, lights sometimes appear, alongside or behind vehicles, only to disappear instantly. These encounters are more frequent in fog or low-light conditions, amplifying the sense of disorientation. The overpass seems to exist in a state where reality and perception intertwine, testing awareness and composure at every turn. Travelers often describe altered perception of time while crossing Devila Espire. Minutes may stretch or compress, with familiar points seeming farther apart or unexpectedly close. Peripheral shadows shift independently, reinforcing the sense that the roadway is subtly alive. The combination of visual and auditory anomalies, elevation, fog, and narrow lanes transforms the crossing into a carefully navigated, immersive experience, where every movement and glance carry significance. Seasonal variations enhance the overpass-esque atmosphere. Summer introduces heavy, moisture-laden fog, intensifying light refraction and shadow distortion. Autumn introduces crisp air and early darkness, with fallen leaves adding muted sound and visual texture. Winter frost and occasional snowfall reflect moonlight in unpredictable ways, creating glimmers and distortions that heighten the surreal quality. Each season shapes a distinct yet consistently mysterious environment, maintaining the overpass's reputation as a place of subtle disorientation and spectral phenomena. Local accounts reinforce the enigmatic reputation. Stories of drivers encountering figures, phantom lights, and strange noises are widespread. Some describe being guided or subtly influenced by unseen forces, while others recount sudden terror that dissipates the moment they stop or step outside. These tales suggest that Devila Espire Overpass is more than a roadway. It exists as a threshold where perception and reality intersect, creating an environment that rewards awareness and careful observation while maintaining an enduring sense of mystery. Even after leaving the overpass, travelers report lingering effects. The echo of phantom engines, fleeting figures, and subtle shifts in perception remain vivid in memory. Shadows seem longer, light appears altered, and the sense of being watched persists. The bridge becomes a mental landscape as much as a physical one, leaving an indelible mark on consciousness, and a lasting impression of the unusual environment experienced there. The interplay of fog, spectral lights, shifting shadows, and subtle auditory anomalies makes Devila Espire a place of contrasts. It is both beautiful and unsettling, elevated yet enclosed, silent yet filled with layered sounds. Every crossing is a narrative in itself, an interaction with the environment that is immersive, cinematic, and charged with tension. The overpass challenges perception, engages the senses, and lingers in memory, becoming a space where natural and supernatural converge seamlessly. Ultimately, Devila Espire Overpass is a threshold rather than just a roadway. It is a place where reality bends subtly, where perception and imagination interact, and where travelers experience an environment that is alive in ways that defy explanation. Every crossing is an encounter, a story, and a memory, leaving a lasting impression of a location that continues to fascinate, unsettle, and captivate. Crossing the overpass is more than a journey from one side to the other. It is a passage through tension, observation, and subtle phenomena. The fog, shadows, spectral lights, and echoes engage all senses, creating a cinematic, immersive experience. The roadway watches, responds, and persists, leaving travelers with a lasting awareness that the environment is both familiar and inexplicably alive, a testament to the mysteries that endure along Devil's Spire. Whispering Pines Bridge stretches across a narrow gorge, enveloped by dense stands of towering pine trees. The scent of sap and earth hangs thick in the air, mingling with mist that rolls in from the forest floor. Every movement of the wind carries sound, twisting leaves and branches into murmurs that seem almost like voices. Travelers describe an uncanny sense that the forest itself is alive, observing each approach with quiet intent. Shadowy vehicles appear along the bridge unexpectedly. They mirror the movements of those crossing, following with unnerving precision. Drivers often accelerate, but the shadows maintain their distance, keeping pace without ever revealing a driver within. Sometimes they vanish entirely when approached, leaving only the empty road behind. The effect is subtle yet powerful, heightening tension and awareness with every passing second. Radio signals are frequently disrupted, Static fills the cabin, distorting music and conversation into unintelligible murmurs. Some hear soft voices in the interference, fleeting phrases that seem to come from nowhere. The sounds are brief, leaving a lingering sense that the air itself is communicating, or that unseen presences are attempting to connect with the living. Cold gusts sweep across the bridge without warning. They brush against skin and rattle the vehicle, often intensifying as drivers near the center of the span. Even on warm nights, the temperature drops suddenly, creating goosebumps and a sense of vulnerability. Combined with the whispers in the wind and the moving shadows, the air becomes charged with subtle energy that is difficult to ignore. Travelers frequently report the sensation of being touched. A hand brushes a shoulder, a fingertip grazes a neck, yet no one is present. These touches are fleeting, almost playful, but their unpredictability causes an acute awareness of surroundings. Hikers and drivers alike describe an instinctive urgency to cross the bridge quickly, as if lingering invites closer scrutiny from the unseen observers. The forest surrounding the bridge distorts perception. Shadows shift independently of the sun or moon. Branches reach into the road at odd angles, creating the illusion of movement just beyond the periphery of vision. Travelers find themselves glancing repeatedly over their shoulders, unable to shake the feeling that something is always watching, always following. Fog often blankets the bridge in waves, rising from the gorge below. Headlights cut narrow beams through the mist, illuminating sections of asphalt while leaving others in sudden darkness. Within the fog, shapes appear and vanish, sometimes resembling figures or vehicles, sometimes simply twisting shadows. The effect is mesmerizing and unsettling, creating an ever-changing environment that challenges perception and heightens tension. Sound behaves strangely in this place. Engines hum and tires whisper against the asphalt, yet faint footsteps, whispers, and rustling leaves seem to echo unnaturally. A driver may hear their own movements repeated moments later, as if the bridge itself reflects sound back with subtle distortion. These auditory illusions reinforce the sense that the area is alive with unseen energy, testing perception and patience. The bridge has a history of unexplained incidents. Drivers recount near misses with phantom vehicles, strange malfunctions in electronic devices, and the overwhelming sensation of being observed. Even those who pass through during daylight report feeling the weight of the forest pressing inward, an energy that seems to permeate every inch of the bridge and its surroundings. Lights and shadows interact in disorienting ways. Headlights reflect off the mist and the pine needles, creating illusions of movement and depth where none exist. Rear-view mirrors occasionally reveal fleeting shapes that disappear when looked at directly. Even the simplest turns of the road can appear distorted, as though the bridge and forest are subtly manipulating perception to test those who traverse them. Travelers who pause on the bridge describe an intense quiet, broken only by distant murmurs carried on the wind. The forest seems to hold its breath, amplifying even the smallest sound. Footsteps echo unnaturally, whispers linger longer than they should, and the mist thickens as if reacting to hesitation. Crossing quickly feels safer, but few escape without a lingering impression of the unseen forces that inhabit the area. The experience is both beautiful and threatening. The towering pines, the rolling fog, and the mirror shadows create a cinematic landscape that captivates the senses. Yet there is an undeniable tension, a persistent sense of being watched, followed, and tested by forces that remain just out of reach. The environment is immersive, blending natural beauty with an intangible sense of the supernatural. Whispering Pines Bridge endures as a place of mystery and subtle fear. Phantom vehicles, shifting shadows, whispers in the wind, and fleeting touches create an environment that engages both mind and body. Drivers and hikers alike leave with heightened awareness, carrying the memory of cold gusts, distorted lights, and the ever-present sensation of being observed. Every crossing is unique. Some see only shadows, some hear only whispers, and some experience all at once. The bridge exists as a threshold, a space where natural perception collides with the inexplicable. Whispering Pines Bridge remains a testament to the power of environment, memory, and the unseen. It challenges those who pass through to remain alert, to question perception, and to respect the energy that lingers among the trees. The bridge is not merely a roadway. It is a living space of mystery, a corridor where the ordinary rules of observation are suspended, leaving travelers with an indelible impression of shadow, whisper, and subtle presence. Blood River Bridge stretches across a deep, shadowed river valley, a narrow span of asphalt and steel that seems ordinary by day, yet transforms at night into a place of unease. The bridge has earned its name from a history marked by accidents, disappearances, and stories that linger long after the events themselves. Travelers speak of an atmosphere that feels heavy, as if the bridge remembers every misstep, every tragedy that occurred upon it. Phantom headlights often appear in the middle of the bridge. They emerge in the darkness, moving steadily toward the observer. Yet, when approached, there is nothing to meet the eyes. No vehicle exists, no tires touch the road, and no engine hums. The lights vanish as suddenly as they appear, leaving only a fading glow that clings to the mist and the metal guardrails. These experiences are brief but profound, unsettling drivers and pedestrians alike, instilling a sense that the bridge is not entirely part of the ordinary world. Mist frequently rolls in from the river below, thick and slow, softening edges and stretching the bridge beyond perception. The mist obscures the water, the road, and surroundings, leaving travelers suspended in a gray haze where perception becomes unreliable. Shapes shift and disappear, and even familiar features of the bridge take on a strange, spectral quality. Some witnesses report hearing screams along the length of the bridge. They echo faintly, carried by the wind, rising and falling without pattern or source. No figure can be seen, no footsteps approach, and yet the sound is unmistakable, sharp, and penetrating. The screams are not constant but appear suddenly, breaking the quiet of the night and leaving an impression of presence, as though the bridge itself channels memories of those who have suffered or disappeared there. The road feels alive beneath each vehicle. Tires pass over asphalt that seems to respond to their movement, a subtle vibration that is felt rather than heard. A quiet awareness that accompanies the physical act of crossing, commanding attention and heightening every sense. Time on Blood River Bridge is distorted. Moments stretch and contract unpredictably, making the journey feel longer or shorter than it should. Drivers frequently report that distances seem altered, with the far end of the bridge appearing impossibly distant, or suddenly close, despite careful observation. This temporal distortion adds to the sensation that the bridge exists partially outside the normal flow of reality, a threshold between the living world and something unknown. The surrounding landscape contributes to the haunting atmosphere. The river below flows silently, its surface dark and reflective, mirroring the fog and the red or white glows of the phantom lights. Dense trees line the approach to the bridge, their trunks like silent witnesses. Shadows are deep and shifting, sometimes taking shapes that resemble movement, almost human, almost alive, before dissolving into the night. Encounters on Blood River Bridge are never identical. Some are subtle, a fleeting light in the mist, a whisper carried on the wind. Others are more pronounced. Headlights that approach and vanish, sudden screams, or shapes glimpsed at the corner of vision. Each experience leaves a lasting impression, a mixture of curiosity, fear, and awe. Travelers often find themselves more alert, more aware, as though the bridge demands observation and respect. The bridge carries the weight of memory. Every accident, every disappearance, every strange encounter contributes to an unseen energy that permeates the structure. Locals speak of it as a place that holds remnants of the past, a conduit for unresolved moments that linger like echoes. Even those who pass without witnessing the supernatural often describe a heavy stillness, a quiet that feels alive with history and presence. Crossing Blood River Bridge is an act of attention and endurance. The combination of mist, phantom lights, unseen presence, and distorted perception transforms the simple act of traveling from one side to the other into a journey through uncertainty. The bridge is not violent, but it demands awareness, and its effects linger long after the road has ended. Each traveler carries with them the memory of a space that is part road, part memory, part something entirely beyond understanding. Blood River Bridge is more than a structure of steel and asphalt. It is a corridor that is alive in a way few roads are. Every phantom light, every whisper, every stretch of fog contributes to an experience that is immersive, haunting, and unforgettable. The bridge challenges perception, leaving those who cross it with a deep awareness of presence, memory, and the thin line between the living and the unknown. Would you dare to drive across Blood? Drive across Blood River Bridge at night. To witness headlights that appear from nowhere. To feel the mist stretch the road beyond sight. To hear screams carried on the wind. And to experience a bridge that holds the weight of countless memories, leaving a mark on your perception that cannot be erased. Fog Veil Overpass stretches across a quiet valley, a bridge that seems ordinary in daylight, yet transforms as night descends. Shadows lengthen along its railings, and the air grows heavy with the scent of damp metal and distant earth. What appears familiar by day becomes something entirely different after dusk, a threshold between the mundane and the inexplicable. Travelers report subtle changes as they approach. The road narrows within this haze, creating the impression of movement through a tunnel of mist rather than across an open span. Each step of the journey feels deliberate, every movement accentuated by the quiet presence of the surrounding atmosphere. Phantom vehicles are among the most commonly reported phenomena. Cars appear suddenly in mirrors, reflecting headlights in shapes that seem real for the briefest of moments. Some drivers find these apparitions aligning perfectly with their own vehicle, moving in tandem as though mirrored by an unseen force. Yet, when attention is focused directly on them, the vehicles vanish instantly, leaving only the road ahead and the lingering impression of their presence. Lights behave unpredictably on the overpass. Headlights flicker and vanish, leaving empty stretches of road. The tires of cars, both real and phantom, echo across the span. Even when no vehicles are visible, the sound of tires on pavement can rise and fall. Every auditory cue heightens awareness. Draw attention to subtle movements. The overpass itself seems alive with memory. Its steel and concrete retain the weight of countless crossings, carrying the energy of both routine travel and unexplained incidents. Drivers often report a sense of da copyright já vu, a fleeting familiarity that feels both comforting and unsettling. Each encounter with Fog Veil Overpass becomes layered with past and present, where perception and reality blend into a delicate, immersive experience. Fog and shadow interact to create ever-changing landscapes. Mist coils around guardrails, swirls over the pavement, and drifts upward in slow, deliberate motions. Shadows stretch and recede, forming shapes that suggest presence without clarity. Peripheral vision is constantly engaged, catching movements that vanish when looked at directly, creating an environment of constant anticipation and subtle tension. Sounds are distorted and amplified in this space. Wind whistles across the overpass, creating a rhythmic hum that resonates in the vehicle and the body alike. The faintest movement, the brush of a tire against the pavement or the shift of metal in the guardrails, produces echoes that linger longer than expected. These auditory anomalies enhance the sense of space that is responsive, charged with unseen energy, and alive in ways that defy ordinary explanation. Phantom vehicles and forms are fleeting yet impactful. Drivers often notice cars in adjacent lanes that mimic speed, direction, and position, only to disappear without trace. Sometimes figures appear within these vehicles, their shapes indistinct and fluid. When observed directly, they vanish as if they were never there, leaving only the memory of their presence and the subtle emotional resonance of being watched. The atmosphere of Fog Veil Overpass encourages heightened perception. Every flicker of light, every change in fog density, every sound of tires or wind draws attention and engagement. Travelers describe a sensation of being guided or observed, a subtle interplay between control and surrender as they navigate the span. The overpass challenges ordinary perception, demanding focus while rewarding awareness of subtle environmental cues. Nightfall intensifies the phenomena. Darkness thickens the fog, shadows deepen, and the road seems to stretch endlessly ahead. Phantom vehicles become more frequent and more precise in their movements, while lights vanish and reappear with increasing unpredictability. The auditory landscape becomes richer, with distant echoes of engines, tires, and mechanical hums layering over the natural sounds of wind and water below. Attempts to capture the experience of Fogvale Overpass are rarely fully successful. Cameras flatten depth, audio recordings fail to reproduce subtle echoes, and fog alters light in ways that resist replication. The bridge maintains its mystery for those present, offering encounters that are personal, ephemeral, and deeply immersive. Each crossing becomes a unique interaction with an environment that blends the physical and the spectral. Despite the tension and uncertainty, the overpass retains a haunting beauty. Mist curls along the pavement, shadows shift with the light, and distant reflections create patterns that are both mesmerizing and unsettling. The environment draws travelers into a state of focused observation, and every movement carries meaning. Fogvale Overpass is more than a simple bridge. It is a space where perception, memory, and the unexplained converge. Phantom vehicles, shifting lights, and subtle movements create a cinematic, immersive experience. Those who traverse the span leave with impressions that endure, a lingering awareness of a place where the ordinary and the inexplicable coexist, and where every journey across the bridge becomes part of its ongoing enigmatic story. Cursed Hollow Bridge stretches across a deep, dark hollow, its steel and concrete rising above dense forest and shadowed slopes. Fog often drifts through the valley, curling along guardrails and creeping across the asphalt. Light becomes distorted, edges blur, and familiar shapes vanish into grayness. Each crossing feels like entering a space removed from ordinary reality, where perception becomes heightened and every sound, shadow, and movement carries significance. Drivers frequently report unsettling phenomena. Phantom headlights appear in the distance, approaching with deliberate speed, only to vanish as they near. Shadows sometimes flank the lanes, fleeting figures glimpsed from peripheral vision, moving just beyond clarity. Whispered names are heard from nowhere, soft and insistent, as if the bridge itself calls to those who cross it. The combination of fog, distorted light, and auditory anomalies creates an immersive atmosphere that commands attention and instinct. The hollow beneath the bridge amplifies sound in unnatural ways. Tires on asphalt echo unusually. Distant noises are magnified. Faint thuds or footsteps appear in areas untouched by human presence. Even the wind behaves oddly, moving through structure to produce moans, whistles, and murmurs that merge with the environment. Drivers often describe a sensation of invisible presence, a subtle pressure in the car, as if something unseen monitors every movement, influencing braking, steering, or perception. Phantom figures appear briefly, sometimes crouching near guardrails, standing motionless in the fog, or seemingly drifting across lanes. Attempts to look directly at them result in sudden disappearance, leaving only a lingering impression that they existed. The interaction is fleeting yet unsettling, reinforcing a sense that the bridge is alive in a quiet, watchful way, capable of influencing awareness and perception. The bridge as design contributes to the unnerving sensation. Narrow lanes and elevated guardrails create tension, while curves and inclines appear exaggerated under fog and darkness. Depth perception becomes unreliable, and familiar points along the span seem altered. Drivers report that the roadway feels longer or shorter than expected, with subtle shifts in perspective making navigation feel precarious. Each crossing becomes an immersive test of attention and composure, where every glance and movement is charged with significance. Phantom headlights are a consistent feature. Lights appear from distant points, traveling toward vehicles, yet vanish abruptly before contact. Mirrors sometimes reflect ghostly shapes accompanying vehicles, only for them to disappear when observed directly. These events occur most often in fog or low-light conditions, emphasizing the Bridgia-esque disorienting and enigmatic qualities. The combination of visual distortions, fleeting figures, and auditory anomalies makes every journey across Cursed Hollow Bridge an experience that lingers in memory. Seasonal changes alter the Bridgia-esque atmosphere. Summer fog is thick and heavy, intensifying visual and auditory illusions. Autumn brings crisp air, early darkness, and rustling leaves that echo across the hollow, enhancing the sense of isolation. Winter frost and occasional snow create reflective surfaces that scatter light unpredictably, magnifying the ethereal qualities of the bridge. Each season maintains a Bridgia-esque mysterious reputation, while offering unique sensory experiences for travelers. The experience of time is distorted along the span. Travelers often feel that minutes stretch or compress unpredictably. Familiar landmarks appear shifted. Shadows seem to move independently, and each step feels deliberate, as if the bridge itself influences perception. These temporal anomalies reinforce the immersive nature of Cursed Hollow Bridge, creating an environment where reality and imagination intertwine seamlessly. Local stories emphasize caution and intrigue. Drivers recount encounters with ghostly lights, figures, and disembodied voices. Some speak of being subtly guided by unseen forces, while others describe sudden terror that disappears the moment they stop or leave the bridge. Some speak of being subtly guided by unseen forces, while others describe sudden terror that disappears the moment they stop or leave the bridge. Some speak of being subtly guided by unseen forces, while others describe sudden terror that disappears the moment they stop or leave the bridge. These tales reinforce the notion that the bridge is not simply a structure, but a place where perception and reality converge, where subtle phenomena reward attention while maintaining a persistent sense of mystery. These tales reinforce the notion that the bridge is not simply a structure, but a place where perception and reality converge, where subtle phenomena reward attention while maintaining a persistent sense of mystery. Even after leaving travelers report lingering sensations. The memory of phantom headlights and whispers persists, as does the hollow of the fog and the altering perception of surroundings, and the bridge becomes a mental as, remaining vivid long after the combination of fog, spectral lights, fleeting shadows, and subtle sounds creates a space of tension and beauty. It is elevated yet enclosed, silent yet layered with sensory anomalies. Each crossing is an immersive narrative, a carefully orchestrated experience where observation, instinct, and perception converge. Travelers are drawn into an environment that feels alive, interactive, and subtly responsive, leaving a lasting impression of mystery and unease. Ultimately, Cursed Hollow Bridge is more than a roadway. The fog, phantom lights, whispers, and fleeting figures engage all senses, creating a cinematic and immersive experience that persists long after the bridge has been crossed. Crossing the bridge is not merely a passage from one side to the other. It is an exploration of awareness, perception, and the unknown. The combination of fog, shadows, spectral lights, and subtle auditory cues engages travelers in a narrative that is both beautiful and unsettling. Cursed Hollow Bridge endures as a place where reality bends, where the unseen is felt, and where every journey leaves an indelible impression on those who dare to cross. Shadow Creek Bridge stretches across a deep, winding gorge, shrouded by dense trees and rolling mist. The air is thick and cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and pine. Travelers report an immediate sense of being watched, a subtle pressure that seems to follow them as they cross the span. Ghostly vehicles are the most reported phenomenon. Drivers hear the roar of engines, the squeal of brakes, and the flash of lights behind them, yet when they glance in their mirrors, nothing appears. Vehicles sometimes seem to materialize briefly, glinting in the fog before vanishing entirely into nothingness. The experience leaves travelers tense, their eyes scanning every shadow, every glimmer of movement along the asphalt. Fog is almost constant on Shadow Creek Bridge. It rolls in waves from the gorge below, sometimes thick enough to obscure the guardrails entirely. Within the mist, shapes appear and disappear, shifting with the wind, Shadows cling briefly to the rails or the edge of the roadway, disappearing as soon as they are noticed. The fog enhances every sound and reflection, creating a constantly changing environment that challenges perception and heightens awareness. Travelers often sense an unseen presence nearby. Cold gusts sweep across the bridge without warning. Some describe the fleeting sensation of a hand on the shoulder or a pressure in the back, brief and untraceable, yet impossible to ignore. These subtle touches amplify the unease, reminding those who cross that Shadow Creek Bridge is not an ordinary place. The landscape around the bridge adds to its uncanny atmosphere. Branches sway even when the air is still, casting moving shadows across the fog. The gorge below seems endless, a dark void that amplifies every sound. Even in daylight, travelers feel the weight of the environment pressing inward, a persistent tension that lingers long after leaving the bridge. Sound behaves strangely in this location. Engines echo oddly. Footsteps seem to come from places where no one walks. The wind carries whispers that vanish when approached. Radios frequently distort, playing static or faint, unrecognizable murmurs. These auditory distortions combine with the visual phenomena, creating an immersive, almost cinematic experience that engages all senses and leaves travelers on edge. Lights on the bridge can also deceive perception. Headlights reflect off the fog and guardrails in unexpected ways, creating illusions of vehicles approaching from impossible angles. Shadows stretch and twist, sometimes forming shapes that resemble figures or vehicles for a fleeting moment. Travelers report that the curve of the bridge and the depth of the gorge amplify these effects, making the familiar road seem unfamiliar and unsettling. The sensation of time is often altered. Some report that crossing feels longer than expected, with moments stretching and compressing as they drive. The combination of fog, shadows, and unseen sounds disrupts ordinary perception, making travelers feel disoriented. Even experienced drivers find themselves slowing instinctively. Their instincts alert to every anomaly in the environment. Many who cross alone report a heightened awareness of presence. Eyes constantly scan the road, mirrors, and edges of the bridge. The mind instinctively fills in the gaps, creating fleeting shapes or movements that vanish upon direct observation. Even without visible phenomena, the energy of the bridge seems to provoke caution, alertness, and a sense of intimacy with the unknown. Some witnesses describe phantom vehicles mimicking their own. Headlights flash in identical patterns. Taillights mirror every turn, and engines roar in harmony with the driver S acceleration. Headlights flash in identical patterns. Taillights mirror every turn, and engines roar in harmony with the driver S acceleration. When the vehicle disappears, the emptiness it leaves behind is palpable, a reminder that the bridge hosts forces beyond ordinary understanding. When the vehicle disappears, the emptiness it leaves behind is palpable, a reminder that the bridge hosts forces beyond ordinary understanding. The bridgy-ass environment reacts subtly to hesitation. Pausing midspan intensifies the mist, amplifies shadows, and deepens the echo of every sound. The combination of visual and auditory stimuli creates an atmosphere that feels alive, a place where the line between reality and perception is blurred. Travelers learn quickly that movement is safest, yet the tension remains even after leaving the bridge behind. Shadow Creek Bridge embodies a convergence of natural beauty and inexplicable phenomena. Fog, shadows, sounds, and unseen touches combine to create an immersive, mysterious environment. The experience is both captivating and unsettling, a place where perception is challenged and ordinary expectations are suspended. Every crossing leaves a lasting impression. Travelers carry with them the memory of shifting shadows, phantom vehicles, strange sounds, and the subtle pressure of unseen observers. Shadow Creek Bridge endures as a location where the ordinary is transformed into a cinematic experience of tension, uncertainty, and subtle fear. The bridge remains a threshold between the known and the unknown. Its twisting span, dense pines, and constant fog create a space that challenges perception, evokes caution, and leaves a lingering sense of awe. Shadow Creek Bridge is not merely a passage over water. It is a living environment of mystery and subtle menace, a place where the ordinary rules of observation and understanding are suspended, leaving each traveler with a haunting, unforgettable memory of crossing through shadow, mist, and the unknown. Midnight Crossing stretches across a darkened valley, a narrow bridge framed by thick forest and shadowed embankments. At night, the road takes on an unsettling glow, as if illuminated by an unseen source. The asphalt seems to absorb light while reflecting faint shapes, giving the impression that the bridge exists in a space between worlds. Travelers often describe an uneasy awareness that begins the moment they approach, a sensation that the crossing is no ordinary stretch of road. Headlights appear suddenly from nowhere, moving steadily behind or alongside vehicles. They follow drivers closely, maintaining distance yet never overtaking. When attempted observation occurs, the lights vanish or shift, leaving no trace of a vehicle. Occasionally, the headlights seem to pass through solid objects, fading into thin air as if the laws of physics do not apply. These encounters are brief but profound, creating a sense that the crossing is alive, responding to the presence of those who travel it. The air along Midnight Crossing feels different. Temperature drops occur without warning, sudden chills that penetrate clothing and heighten awareness. Whispers rise and fall in the wind, soft and unintelligible, coming from no identifiable source. The combination of cold, sound, and light creates a heightened sensory environment, demanding attention and focus. Every glance of mirrors, every turn of the wheel, feels laden with significance, as though the road itself is aware of the traveler. As the traveler continues down the highway, the sense of unease grows, and the darkness seems to close in. Mist and fog frequently drift across the bridge, enhancing its eerie quality. Visibility becomes limited, and familiar landmarks take on unfamiliar shapes. Shadows stretch and twist along guardrails and embankments, forming forms that suggest motion. Travelers often describe figures glimpsed at the periphery of vision, indistinct and fleeting, vanishing when attention is directed at them. The effect is disorienting, a subtle manipulation of perception that leaves the mind questioning reality. Midnight Crossing seems to exist outside ordinary time. Drivers report that distances feel altered, with stretches of road that should be brief feeling prolonged, and moments that should take seconds stretching into minutes. The combination of visual anomalies, temperature shifts, and sounds creates an environment in which normal perception is unreliable. Each crossing becomes a journey not merely across space, but through a corridor of sensation and uncertainty. The sounds along the bridge are unusual. Occasional creaks or faint thuds echo without apparent origin. The wind carries noises from unknown directions, mixing them with whispers that rise and fade unpredictably. Radios frequently experience static interference, abrupt and unexplained. Even small, familiar sounds are transformed, giving the impression that the bridge exists as a conscious environment, subtly influencing perception and reaction. Encounters with the unexplained are varied and unpredictable. Some witnesses see headlights moving against the flow of traffic, appearing briefly and disappearing before identification. Others report phantom vehicles passing to the bridge as if it were intangible, vanishing midair. Sudden chills, whispers, and disorienting visual effects combine to create a sense of heightened awareness, leaving travelers on edge and deeply aware of the space they occupy. The landscape surrounding Midnight Crossing amplifies the experience. Dense forest lines either side of the bridge, obscuring distant light and sound. The river or valley below reflects faint glows, adding depth and a sense of isolation. Shadows move across the road in subtle patterns, blending with fog and light to form shapes that are both familiar and strange. Every feature of the environment contributes to an immersive, almost cinematic atmosphere. Traveling the bridge demands caution and focus. Every motion, every glance, every adjustment of speed is amplified by the uncanny environment. Ordinary roads fade into background, replaced by a corridor of perception, memory, and unseen activity. Drivers often emerge from the crossing with heightened awareness and a lingering sense that they have experienced something beyond explanation. Time spent on midnight crossing feels suspended. What should be a simple drive becomes a complex journey. Through light, shadow, sound, and temperature, encounters are fleeting yet memorable, creating a lasting impression of the bridge as a place where ordinary expectations of space and reality are challenged. The crossing leaves a subtle, persistent imprint on consciousness, a reminder of the thin line between the familiar and the unknown. Midnight crossing is more than a bridge. It is an environment alive with light, mist, whispers, and memory. Every flicker of headlights, every chill, and every disembodied sound contributes to an immersive experience. The crossing challenges perception and engages the senses, leaving travelers with profound awareness of the unseen forces that seem to inhabit this stretch of road. Would you dare to drive across midnight crossing at night? To witness headlights appear from nowhere? To feel sudden chills and hear whispers that have no source? To see vehicles pass through solid matter? And to experience a bridge that exists between reality and something far beyond ordinary understanding? Phantom Bay Bridge spans a wide, dark expanse of water, its steel beams and concrete supports rising from the mist like sentinels guarding an unseen threshold. By day, the bridge appears ordinary, a simple crossing over the bay. But as dusk settles, an eerie transformation begins. Shadows stretch across the roadway, fog drifts along the edges, and the air becomes heavy with an unexplainable tension. Travelers crossing the bridge at night report sensations that are difficult to describe yet impossible to ignore. A chill hangs in the air, and visibility becomes distorted as fog coils and swirls around the rails. The familiar lines of the bridge seem to shift subtly, creating the sense that the structure itself is breathing, responding to those who traverse it. Every movement is magnified, and each sound carries further than expected, drawing attention to details that might otherwise go unnoticed. Phantom vehicles are among the most commonly experienced phenomena. Headlights appear in mirrors, approaching in perfect alignment with the driver's car, only to vanish without warning. Engines roar, tires squeal, and yet no vehicle is present. The sensation of movement alongside these apparitions creates a mixture of anxiety and fascination, leaving a lasting impression that lingers long after leaving the bridge. Shadowy forms also manifest, sometimes in periphery of vision, or reflected in rearview mirrors. Figures appear leaning along guardrails, motionless yet undeniably present. When observed directly, they dissolve into fog or disappear entirely. The combination of fleeting images, shifting light, and peripheral awareness heightens a sense of unease, as if the bridge is populated by presences that exist just beyond the boundaries of perception. Radio static is another common experience on Phantom Bay Bridge. Devices tuned to familiar frequencies begin to hiss and crackle, forming fragments of whispers that seem almost coherent. These voices rise and fall with the fog, creating an auditory layer that mirrors the visual phenomena. The effect is subtle but persistent, reinforcing the idea that the bridge is more than a physical structure, that it carries echoes of past events and memories. The water beneath the bridge is dark and reflective, absorbing light and sound. Small ripples appear without discernible cause, and shadows move across the surface in patterns that seem intentional. The river, tidal currents, and fog combine to create a visual environment where perception is challenged, and the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Reflections of phantom headlights or shadowed figures add to the impression that the space is alive with unseen activity. Fog on the bridge acts almost like a living entity. Curls along guardrails, drifts across lanes, shifts in density, altering perception of depth and distance. Headlights cut through the mist unevenly, revealing brief glimpses of the road ahead or the shapes of phantom vehicles, only for them to vanish moments later. The interplay of light and fog creates fleeting visions that are both captivating and unsettling, drawing travelers into a heightened state of awareness. Auditory experiences on Phantom Bay Bridge are amplified and warped. The hum of an engine or the scrape of tires echoes longer than expected, while the sound of wind and water seems to carry subtle rhythmic patterns. Every creak of metal, splash of water, or distant noise contributes to the sense that the bridge is not merely a crossing, but a space charged with residual energy. Travelers feel as if every movement, every turn, and every pause is observed and responded to in kind. Nightfall intensifies the phenomena. Darkness thickens the fog, shadows lengthen, and the reflection of phantom headlights on the water becomes more pronounced. Figures on guardrails appear closer. The sound of engines echoes more vividly, and the radio static forms whispers that seem urgent and layered. The bridge transforms into an immersive environment, where perception is tested and ordinary sensory input is replaced by heightened awareness of the subtle and the inexplicable. Attempts to document these experiences are rarely fully successful. Cameras flatten depth and distort perspective. Audio recordings struggle to capture whispered voices, and fog alters light in ways that defy reproduction. The bridge maintains its mysteries, offering experiences that must be lived rather than recorded. Each crossing is unique, a personal encounter with an environment where history, memory, and the unexplained converge. Attempts to document these experiences are rarely fully successful. Despite the tension, Phantom Bay Bridge possesses a haunting beauty. Mist curls along the rails, reflections dance across the water, and shadows shift in patterns that feel almost choreographed. The interplay of light, water, and fog produces a cinematic quality, transforming the bridge into a space that is both captivating and unsettling. Travelers are drawn into a delicate balance of caution, curiosity, and fascination. Phantom Bay Bridge is more than a physical structure. It is a convergence of perception, memory, and unexplained phenomena. Phantom vehicles, shifting shadows, and whispers carried on the wind create an immersive experience that engages the senses and the mind. Those who traverse the bridge leave with lingering impressions, a subtle awareness that the ordinary and the extraordinary coexist, and that every journey across the span becomes part of the bridge's enduring enigmatic story. Dread Hollow Overpass stretches across a deep river valley, a narrow ribbon of asphalt suspended between steep banks and shadowed slopes. Fog often creeps up from the water, curling around guardrails and drifting across lanes, muting colors and softening edges. Light bends and refracts in strange ways, creating illusions of movement that vanish when confronted. Crossing the overpass becomes an experience of heightened awareness, where each glance and motion carries tension and every sound resonates with subtle meaning. Drivers frequently report encounters with spectral vehicles. Glowing shapes appear in the mist, following the roadway as though guided by unseen intent. They seem to anticipate movements, closing distance when drivers slow or turning to match their pace. Approaching these phantom cars often reveals empty lanes, with no trace of the vehicles once the fog clears. Some travelers catch glimpses of shadowy passengers, seated silently, who disappear the moment eyes focus directly upon them. The overpass's elevation amplifies every sensation. Steep drops on either side create inherent tension, and narrow lanes increase focus and precision. Shadows appear elongated along guardrails, and the fog stretches shapes in unpredictable ways. Each crossing feels immersive, drawing attention to subtle visual and auditory cues that might otherwise go unnoticed. Ordinary features of the roadway transform into an environment charged with subtle unease, where every step and turn feels significant. Fog is central to the haunting character of Dread Hollow. Drivers often report moments when the roadway feels longer than it is, with perspective shifting subtly to confuse or disorient. These effects amplify the sense that the overpass is not entirely governed by natural laws. Auditory anomalies enhance the eerie experience. Engine hums echo in unexpected ways. Tire treads resonate unusually, and faint thuds or footsteps are sometimes heard on sections where no one walks. The wind moves through gaps in guardrails and supporting structures, producing low, almost vocal tones. Even small noises, like leaves rustling along the edge, are amplified, creating a layered soundscape that engages and unsettles simultaneously. Phantom vehicles are often accompanied by shifting shadows. They appear in peripheral vision, sometimes crouching near lanes or drifting across the roadway. Attempt to observe them directly usually result in immediate disappearance. These fleeting glimpses leave an enduring impression of presence and attention, as though the overpass itself watches, recording and responding subtly to every movement. Temporal perception along Dread Hollow is frequently distorted. Travelers report that time stretches or compresses, with familiar sections of road appearing farther or closer than expected. Peripheral shadows shift independently, reinforcing the sense that the overpass is subtly alive. The combination of visual and auditory anomalies, elevation, fog, and narrow lane transforms each journey into an immersive and cinematic experience, where every moment carries heightened significance. Seasonal variations alter the overpass's atmosphere in dramatic ways. Summer introduces crisp air, early darkness, and fallen leaves that provide visual and auditory texture, deepening the sense of isolation. Winter frost or snowfall reflects light unpredictably, producing glimmers and distorted shapes that magnify the ethereal qualities of the environment. Each season preserves the haunting character while offering unique sensory experiences. Local stories emphasize caution and fascination. Drivers recount encounters with spectral headlights, phantom cars, and shadowed figures. Some describe subtle guidance or influence from unseen forces, while others speak of sudden terror that dissipates once they leave the overpass. These accounts suggest that Dread Hollow Overpass is more than a simple roadway. It exists as a threshold where perception and reality converge, creating an environment that challenges awareness while maintaining enduring mystery. Even after crossing, travelers often feel lingering effects. The memory of ghostly headlights, spectral vehicles, and subtle shifts in perception persists, as does the sense of being observed. The overpass imprints on memory, altering perception of light, shadow, and sound long after departure. It becomes both a physical and mental landscape, an experience remembered as vividly as any tangible encounter. The interplay of fog, spectral vehicles, shifting shadows, and unusual sounds creates a space both beautiful and unsettling. Elevated yet enclosed, silent yet layered with subtle anomalies, the overpass offers a cinematic, immersive journey. Each crossing is a narrative, an interaction with environment and perception, leaving travelers engaged and subtly altered. The roadway seems attentive, responsive, and persistently enigmatic. Ultimately, Dread Hollow Overpass is a threshold rather than just infrastructure. The fog, shadowed figures, and spectral vehicles combine to form an environment, a testament to the unknown forces that linger in our world. Crossing Dread Hollow is not simply a passage from one side to another. It is an experience of heightened perception, tension, and interaction with phenomena that defy explanation. The overpass persists as a space where light, shadow, sound, and unseen presence converge, creating a cinematic and immersive journey that remains vivid in memory long after the roadway ends. Morning Pines Bridge stretches across a narrow gorge, flanked on both sides by towering pine trees. Their dark silhouettes loom over the roadway, branches swaying with an almost sentient motion. The air is heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth, mingling with a mist that drifts along the bridge, curling around guardrails and headlights. Travelers feel a subtle tension as they approach, a quiet anticipation that something unseen is waiting. Phantom vehicles are the most common reports along the bridge. Drivers see lights emerge in the mist, following closely or appearing suddenly behind them. Engines roar and brakes squeal, yet when the traveler checks mirrors or glances over their shoulder, no vehicle is there. Sometimes a phantom car's flashlights in perfect sync with the driver's own vehicle, creating a disorienting reflection that heightens fear and wonder simultaneously. Whispers travel along the wind, soft and insistent. Names are called, phrases repeated, often echoing the thoughts of those crossing the bridge. The voices seem to follow, drifting from the fog, wrapping around the trees, and blending with the natural sounds of the forest. The whispers are never loud enough to startle violently, but they are persistent, filling the mind with a sense of being observed and remembered by unseen presences. Fog dominates the atmosphere. It rises in rolling waves on the gorge below, thickening suddenly and blurring the edges of guardrails. Within the mist, shadows appear briefly, flickering on the asphalt or clinging to the edges of the roadway. They vanish when looked at directly, leaving behind only a fleeting memory of movement. Travelers feel the environment shifting around them, time and distance seeming slightly altered by the dense, swirling fog. Unseen touches are often reported. Cold gusts brush against the skin. A fleeting pressure on the shoulder. A sensation of fingertips along the neck, leaving the traveler aware of presence without revealing its source. Each sensation reinforces a feeling that Morning Pines Bridge is more than a simple crossing, that it exists as a space where the living and unseen intersect. The pines themselves seem to participate in the experience. Branches sway and creak even when the air is still, casting moving shadows across the fog-drenched roadway. The trees lean inward, creating tunnels of darkness that narrow the road and focus attention. Travelers sense that every movement is being watched, that each step or turn is observed by forces hidden within the forest. The weight of the environment presses inward, intensifying the eerie atmosphere. Sound behave in unusual ways on the bridge. Engines echo strangely, tires whisper against the asphalt, and footsteps seem to stretch and repeat. Radios may crackle with static or faint, unrecognizable sounds, amplifying the sense of unpredictability. Even silence becomes significant, a heavy pause that allows the mind to fill in gaps with imagined movements or phantom presences. The sensation of time is altered for many who cross. Moments stretch or compress, creating a disorienting effect that makes the journey feel longer than expected. Shadows shift independently of the sun or moon. Fog thickens without warning, and light reflects in unexpected angles. Travelers develop a heightened alertness, scanning mirrors, road edges, and miss for movement that may or may not exist. Some report that the bridge reacts to hesitation. Pausing mid-span intensifies the fog and heightens the shadows, making every sound echo longer and every movement appear magnified. The experience encourages continuous motion, yet even those who move quickly feel the bridge's weight. An unseen presence that follows, observes, and tests. Phantom vehicles often mimic those of the traveler. Headlights flash in exact patterns. Taillights mirror every turn. And the roar of engines replicates the sound of the car ahead. The effect is precise and unsettling, a silent reflection that challenges perception. When the phantoms vanish, the emptiness left behind is palpable, a reminder that the bridge hosts forces beyond ordinary understanding. Travelers describe the experience as both beautiful and threatening. The towering pines, curling fog, and shifting shadows create a cinematic scene that captivates the senses. Yet the persistent feeling of being watched, followed, and tested infuses a journey with tension. Every crossing is unique, blending natural grandeur with an invisible presence that heightens awareness and stirs unease. Morning Pines Bridge embodies a meeting of the ordinary and the unexplained. Fog, shadows, phantom vehicles, whispers, and fleeting touches combine to create a living environment that engages mind, body, and senses. Drivers and hikers alike leave with memories of cold gusts, shifting shadows, and subtle interactions that defy explanation. The bridge serves as a threshold between the known and the unknown. Its narrow roadway, dense pines, and persistent mist create an environment where perception is challenged. Ordinary expectations are suspended, leaving behind a haunting imprint of shadow, whisper, and unseen presence. Every journey across Morning Pines Bridge is an encounter with subtle mystery. The combination of fog, light, sound, and shadow transforms a simple roadway into a corridor of uncertainty and intrigue. Travelers leave with heightened senses, a lingering sense of tension, and the undeniable impression that the bridge is alive, a silent witness to every crossing and a keeper of its own hidden stories. By day, it is a simple route, a bridge and roadway that carries traffic safely from one side to the other. At night, however, the crossing transforms. Thick fog rolls in from the surrounding hills, swallowing headlights and obscuring the path ahead. Visibility drops to a few feet, and the familiar becomes strange and threatening. Drivers often report that lights vanish suddenly. Oncoming vehicles disappear as if they never existed, leaving only the echo of their presence in the mind. Shadows stretch and flicker, appearing at the edge of vision, only to vanish when looked at directly. The environment itself seems to respond to those who traverse it. Shadowy figures appear along the guardrails. They are fleeting, often glimpsed in peripheral vision. Drivers feel the sense of being watched, a quiet awareness that something unseen mirrors their journey across the bridge. Occasionally, the figures seem to reach toward the travelers, yet when approached, they vanish, leaving only the fog and the faint echo of movement. Many who cross Black Mist report feeling unseen hands brush there. Shadows as if touched by a presence just beyond perception. The effect is disorienting, a reminder that the crossing is not merely a stretch of road but a space, in which the ordinary rules of reality are altered. Phantom engines roar without source. The sound of revving acceleration and tires on asphalt is heard clearly, yet no vehicle is present. Sometimes the roar approaches from behind, creating the sensation of being followed, and then it fades abruptly into silence. The effect is amplified by the fog, which absorbs normal sound and replaces it with these isolated, unsettling noises. Each encounter leaves travelers alert and uneasy, their senses heightened by anticipation and fear. The fog has a way of stretching perception. Landmarks that should be familiar become distorted, distances misjudged, and the end of the bridge seems impossibly far. Drivers describe the roadway as shifting subtly, curves appearing where none exist, guardrails bending, and shadows deepening into solid-looking forms. Every turn of the wheel becomes an exercise in careful observation, a navigation of both physical space and psychological tension. Encounters on Black Mist Crossing are unpredictable. Some travelers pass without incident, sensing only the heavy fog and the quiet hum of isolation. Others witness lights that fade into nothing, hear whispers carried on the wind, or glimpse figures standing silently by the roadway. The combination of visual anomalies, physical sensations, and sound creates a complete environment of uncertainty, where ordinary assumptions about movement, time, and space no longer apply. The surrounding forest contributes to the Bridgia-esque haunting character. Trees rise like silent sentinels, their trunks dark and unyielding, branches stretching overhead to block the moonlight. Shapes and figures are often seen among the trunks, moving in the corner of vision, yet when attention is focused, they dissolve into shadows. Mist drifts between them, forming curtains that seem to sway independently of wind. The interplay between light, fog, and trees creates a constantly shifting tableau, a living environment of ambiguity and suspense. Time itself feels different on Black Mist Crossing. Moments are elongated. Stretches of roadway seem longer than they should, and brief encounters leave an impression of hours passing. Drivers speak of emerging from the fog feeling as though they had traversed not only distance, but corridor perception, where reality was suspended and the unseen became tangible. The crossing leaves a lingering awareness that ordinary life exists only on the other side of the fog. Crossing Black Mist is an act of attention and endurance. Each motion of the wheel, each glance into mirrors or shadows, becomes significant. Every sound and movement is interpreted through the lens of heightened awareness, creating an experience that is immersive and unforgettable. Travelers emerge changed, with a deep sense that the crossing exists in a realm apart, where unseen forces and altered perception combine to create a space that is both fascinating and unnerving. Black Mist Crossing is more than a bridge or road. It is a corridor of mist, shadow, and unseen presence. Every phantom light, Every whispered sound, every brush of unseen hands contributes to an atmosphere that is alive and responsive. The crossing challenges perception, demanding attention, and leaving a lasting impression on those who pass through it. Would you dare to drive across Black Mist Crossing at night? To feel hands brushing your shoulders? To witness headlights that vanish into fog? To hear phantom engines roar without source? And to experience a bridge that exists in a space between the known and the unknowable? Hollow Vale Bridge stretches across a dark, winding river, its concrete and steel structure appearing ordinary in daylight. By nightfall, however, the familiar crossing transforms. Fog drifts along the lanes, curling around the rails and drifting across the roadway, softening the edges of reality. Shadows stretch across the pavement, and the air carries a subtle weight, a presence that is felt more than seen. Travelers often approach with a heightened sense of awareness. The bridge seems to react to every movement, every turn of the wheel, as if acknowledging those who pass across it. A sudden gust of wind can sweep across the lanes without warning, rattling rails and tossing debris, reinforcing the feeling that the environment itself is alive and responsive. The ordinary sound of tires on concrete and the hum of engines are amplified and distorted, creating an atmosphere that is both captivating and unsettling. Phantom vehicles are a frequent experience on Hollow Vale Bridge. Cars appear in mirrors or adjacent lanes, their headlights cutting through the fog. Cars follow in perfect alignment with real vehicles, moving in tandem. The apparitions vanish instantly when attention is focused directly on them. The phenomenon produces a mixture of awe and unease. Shadowy figures also manifest on the lanes. They appear intermittently along the edges, walking or standing still, their forms indistinct and fleeting. Observers often report catching glimpses in peripheral vision, only for the shapes to dissolve when looked at directly. These figures contribute to the feeling that the bridge is not merely a passage over water, but a space where ordinary perception is challenged and subtly altered. Radio interference adds another layer to the experience. Static hisses through car radios, forming fragments of voices that rise and fall with the mist. Whispers seem to float in and out of clarity, sometimes synchronized with the movement of phantom vehicles or the rustle of shadowy figures. The combination of auditory and visual phenomena creates an immersive environment, drawing travelers into heightened awareness and compelling engagement with every detail of the crossing. The bridge itself seems to carry memory. Its structure has borne the weight of countless crossings, accidents, and unexplained events. Every creak of steel, groan of concrete, and ripple in the water below contributes to the sensation that the bridge remembers. Travelers report moments of copyright déjà vu, fleeting impressions that feel familiar yet altered, as if the bridge is replaying fragments of the past while allowing the present to unfold in tandem. Fog interacts with light and shadow in ways that distort perception. Reflections on the wet pavement and in the dark water below create patterns that seem intentional, enhancing the sense that the bridge itself orchestrates the experience. Shadows move along rails and lanes with a rhythm that feels deliberate, drawing attention to details that might otherwise be overlooked. Nightfall intensifies the phenomena. Darkness thickens the fog, elongates shadows, and enhances reflections on the water. Phantom vehicles become more pronounced, their movements precise and fleeting. Shadowy figures seem closer, almost tangible, and gusts of wind shift unexpectedly, heightening tension. Every sound, from the distant rush of water to the scrape of tires, is magnified, creating a cinematic atmosphere that engages the senses and the mind. Attempts to document the experiences on Hollow Vale Bridge are rarely fully successful. Cameras flatten depth, audio recordings fail to reproduce whispers and echoes, and fog alters light in ways that resist accurate capture. The bridge retains its mysteries, offering encounters that are ephemeral and personal. Every crossing is unique, a private interaction with an environment where perception, memory, and the unexplained converge. Despite the tension and uncertainty, the bridge possesses a haunting beauty. Mist curls along guardrails, shadows shift in patterns that feel almost choreographed, and reflections dance across the water below. The interplay of light, fog, and shadow produces an immersive, cinematic quality, drawing travelers into a delicate balance of fascination and caution. Each crossing becomes more than a simple passage, transforming into an encounter that engages the senses and leaves a lasting impression. Hollow Vale Bridge is more than a structure spanning water. It is a convergence of perception, memory, and phenomena that defy explanation. Phantom vehicles, shifting shadows, gusting winds, and whispered static combine to create an immersive experience that challenges awareness and perception. Those who traverse the bridge leave with a lingering sense of wonder and unease, a recognition that the ordinary and extraordinary coexist, and that every journey across the span becomes part of the bridge's ongoing enigmatic story. Lost Horizon Bridge stretches across a deep valley, its structure rising above the winding river below. Fog often rolls in from surrounding hills, drifting across the asphalt and clinging to the guardrails. Mist curls along the edges, muting light and softening the shapes of the roadway. Every crossing becomes an experience where perception feels altered and ordinary navigation transforms into a careful observation of subtle movements and sounds. Drivers report strange phenomena that seem to defy explanation. Phantom vehicles appear in the distance, glowing faintly through the fog, moving in ways that mirror or anticipate the movements of passing cars. Shadows shift independently along the lanes, forming shapes that vanish when focused upon. Whispered voices carry through mist, calling names or murmuring unintelligible words. The combination of fog, shadows, and spectral sounds creates a sense of being watched, heightening tension with each passing moment. Time itself seems unstable along Lost Horizon Bridge. Travelers describe feeling trapped in loops, crossing familiar sections only to find themselves returning to points already passed. Distances appear altered, with curves exaggerated and slopes seeming steeper than reality. Peripheral shadows move independently, emphasizing the illusion that the environment is subtly alive. Drivers often experience a distortion perception that leaves lingering unease even after they have reached the other side. Phantom vehicles are a frequent occurrence. They appear suddenly, approaching from a distance or materializing alongside, only to vanish before contact. Some drivers report glimpses of shadowed passengers inside, who disappear when the gaze is directed toward them. Mirrors reflect headlights or fleeting forms that vanish instantly. These experiences are intensified in low light or foggy conditions, reinforcing the overpass-esque reputation as a place where ordinary rules of perception do not fully apply. The bridgy-esque elevation amplifies every sensation. Steep sides create inherent tension, and narrow lanes require careful navigation. Shadows stretch along guardrails and across asphalt, moving unpredictably with shifting light and fog. Each crossing demands focus and attention, as even familiar details can appear altered. Ordinary sounds are transformed, with tires on asphalt echoing unusually, wind moving through gaps producing strange tones, and distant noises amplified in ways that defy expectation. Mist and fog are central to the haunting atmosphere. These environmental effects heighten the immersive experience, making each journey both cinematic and unnerving. Travelers often describe feeling as though the bridge itself is aware, observing, and subtly guiding attention. These environmental effects heighten the immersive experience, making each journey both cinematic and unnerving. Auditory anomalies reinforce the bridge's eerie character. Engine hums from approaching vehicles sometimes echo in impossible directions. Footsteps or muffled thuds are heard in areas with no pedestrian presence. The wind whispers through guardrails and steel supports, producing tones that resemble murmurs or faint voices. Even subtle sounds, such as leaves or debris moving along the asphalt, become amplified, layering the environment with an almost tangible tension. Summer nights bring thick, heavy fog that intensifies visual and auditory distortions. Autumn introduces crisp air and early darkness, with rustling leaves adding texture to the environment. Winter frost or snow reflects light in unpredictable ways, amplifying shadows and spectral shapes. Each season offers a distinct yet consistently unsettling experience, preserving the bridge's reputation while providing unique sensory impressions for those who cross it. Local accounts reinforce the bridge's enigmatic nature. Stories describe encounters with phantom vehicles, shifting shadows, and whispered voices. Some drivers feel subtly guided or influenced by unseen forces, while others experience sudden terror that dissipates once they leave. These tales suggest that Lost Horizon Bridge is more than a structure. It is a threshold where perception, memory, and environment converge, creating an experience that is immersive, memorable, and unsettling. Even after leaving the bridge, travelers often retain a lingering sense of unease. Phantom lights, shadows flanking lanes, and whispered words remain vivid in memory. The hollow beneath, the fog above, and the bridge itself imprint on consciousness, altering perception of distance, light, and sound long after the journey ends. The overpass becomes both a physical and mental space, a narrative in motion that engages awareness, intuition, and imagination. The interplay of fog, spectral vehicles, moving shadows, and subtle sounds transforms Lost Horizon Bridge into a cinematic environment. It is both beautiful and disquieting, elevated yet enclosed, silent yet layered with sensory anomalies. An encounter with environment and perception that leaves a lasting impression. A place where the veil between reality and the unknown is at its thinnest. Ultimately, Lost Horizon Bridge is not merely a crossing from one side of a valley to another. It is a place where perception bends, where the unseen is felt, and where each journey becomes an encounter with phenomena that defy ordinary understanding. Every crossing engages the senses, heightens awareness, and leaves a lasting impression on memory. The fog, spectral lights, whispers, and shadows converge to create a space that is simultaneously familiar and inexplicably alive, a testament to the mysterious forces that linger in the world. Crossing Lost Horizon Bridge is a passage through tension, perception, and subtle phenomena. The fog, shadows, phantom vehicles, and whispered voices engage travelers in an immersive, cinematic experience. Each journey is a narrative, a memory, and an encounter with the unseen. The bridge remains a place of mystery, suspense, and enduring fascination, leaving every traveler with a sensation that reality has shifted, if only for a moment, along its fog-shrouded span. These 25 haunted highway bridges remind us that Texas is not just wide-open roads and scenic views. Some crossings carry the weight of history, tragedy, and the unknown. Phantom cars appear, shadows linger, and whispers ride the wind. Curiosity meets caution, and every journey across these bridges carries the possibility of encountering the unexplained. If you ever travel these roads, remember that the bridges remember, the shadows watch, and the phantom vehicles follow. Drive carefully, stay aware, and respect the stories embedded in every span of steel and asphalt. Texas highways have waited generations for those brave enough to cross, and the haunted bridges will continue to watch long after you pass. May your journey be cautious, your senses sharp, and your courage steadfast, for the haunted bridges are alive, and they are always watching.